There you go.
You survived anyway.
Don't put that in your mouth. Don't put that in your mouth.
Join us in a lovely rendition of the Sure, it will be difficult.
Welcome, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the September 10th Oshtemo Township Regular Board Meeting. I am going to call this meeting to order, and at this time, we will be calling for remote location identification. Trustee Kristen Cole is working remotely today, can participate in conversation, but based on state law, not eligible to vote for the reason not being present. Kristen, are you hearing that? We're not hearing you. Just a sec. Okay. John's going to work on the sound for you, Kristen, okay? Thanks. At this time, I invite you to join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I'd like to invite a member of this body to present the Township Mission, Vision, and Core Value.
I will do that. Core value, fiscal stewardship. Ensure that taxpayer investments are spent wisely.
Keep going, second line.
Trifocals, still getting used to it. Effectively and efficiently.
Thank you. Next, before we move to the item 5, public comment on non-regular session items, I'd like to welcome this fabulous room full of folks here at the Township Board meeting with us. This is like just warms our heart, I'm certain of it. Not only probably many of you for a great reason, but having people with us is always a great thing as we work through our agendas. Also, at this time, I would like to amend the agenda. Clerk Farmer?
Yeah.
Thanks. I just want to make sure you heard me.
Well, I was trying, you skipped public comment? Is that what you said?
No, we haven't gotten there yet.
Okay, gotcha.
No. I need to amend the agenda. After item 11, I'd like to include a new item, which will become 12, I guess, and that will be consideration to purchase a new township truck. It will be an update in consideration. Next, I'd like to move forward to item number 5, which is public comment on non-session items, non-regular session items. So if you're a member of the public here and you'd like to speak to something that is not a part of our agenda this evening, now would be the time to come to the podium. Certainly, Mr. Fuller.
Good evening. Thank you for having me here as a member of the public. I am a citizen of the township. I'm the captain of community risk reduction at the fire department. I'm part of the ceremony tonight also. But in October, we're hosting a fire prevention day, and this year we're expanding it. We as first responders, we see very often that the people we are serving need more than just EMS services. So I have reached out to all of our agency partners in the jurisdiction, such as the Area Agency on Aging, Disability Network, Integrated Services of Kalamazoo, and as well as our local partners, law enforcement and EMS. And we're going to be expanding that prevention day, having them all here. It's on October 5th, so I'm here to invite you as board members and the public to attend. It'll be 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., and I have a packet full of flyers here I would like to leave in the back of the room for anyone to grab. So that's all I had.
Thank you, Captain Fuller. I'm excited. It looks like it's going to be a great community event. They're pulling together a really nice day. Do we have any other members of the public here wishing to make comment on an item that is not a part of our regular agenda? Seeing none, I will close public comment and move to item 6. At this time, we will do public official updates, and I'd like to invite our Deputy Chief Burkhart here to join us up front, and we will talk about these wonderful fire department promotions.
Thank you. Deputy Chief Eric Burkhart, Oshtemo Fire Department. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. So it's my pleasure and honor to conduct the promotion, or be the spokesperson for the promotion ceremony. We're about to promote 6 of our firefighters to the rank of captain. Before we do that, this is not an easy process, as I'm sure they will attest and probably have told their spouses about. So real quick, I just want to recap how we ended up here tonight. So everybody sitting here who is about to get pinned with their badge demonstrated leadership potential long before they even knew that there was a promotion ceremony, or I'm sorry, a promotion about to come up. But when we announced the promotion, the first thing they had to do was write a letter of interest to us and submit their resume. Everyone was accepted at that point, and then they were scheduled for a written exam. It's a very challenging written exam to gauge their knowledge of fire service, what they've learned up until this point, again, before they knew there was ever a possibility for promotion. Afterwards, in this very room, we had a panel interview. The panel consisted of 3 of our very own fire captains and 1 fire chief from an outside organization. This helped us keep the process impartial. This panel gave them an interview questions, and graded them. They then had to give a 20-minute training presentation to that panel, which they were graded on. And finally, they were given an incident command scenario, mass casualty incident, where they had to be in charge of it and show their ability to manage something of that magnitude. Afterwards, after all that, they then had to come sit in a room with me, Chief McComb, and another chief from an outside organization, again for that impartiality. So after all that, going through all that ringer, they were all scored. We met up and decided that the individuals sitting before you met our criteria and are eligible for promotion to the rank of captain. All right, if I could have, please, Adam Bennett, Nathan Carley, Jake Delapia, Scott Fuller, Jared Rice, and Drake Wednick all come and stand. I'm now going to read the official promotion order. The Charter Township of Oshtemo has reposed special trust and confidence in the patriotism, valor, fidelity, and professional excellence of Adam Bennett, Nathan Carley, Jake Delapia, Scott Fuller, Jared Rice, and Drake Wednick. In view of these qualities and their demonstrated leadership potential and dedication to service to the community, they are therefore promoted from firefighter to captain, effective September 10th, with the date of rank of September 10th. Now Chief McComb will swear them in.
All right, gentlemen. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this state, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of a fire officer in and for the Township of Oshtemo, County of Kalamazoo, and State of Michigan, according to the best of my ability. As a leader, I pledge to place the welfare of the firefighters under my command and the accomplishment of our mission is my highest priority. I commit to upholding the highest standards of my profession and continually seeking improved methods of serving our community. Methods of serving our community.
Serving our community.
I'll shorten these up. I will respect and protect the lives,
I will respect and protect the lives,
health, and property
and property
of all people I am sworn to serve.
of all people I shall serve.
I pledge to perform my responsibilities
I pledge to perform my responsibilities
with courage and dedication,
with courage and dedication,
never allowing personal feelings
never allowing my personal feelings
or danger to myself
or danger to myself
to interfere with the duties of my office.
to interfere with the duties of my office.
I recognize the badge of my office as a symbol of public faith,
Recognize the badge of my office as a symbol of public faith.
and I accept the self-imposed
Accept the self-imposed
and self-enforced obligation
and self-enforced obligation
freely and upon my own.
freely and upon my own.
I will serve with respect, responsibility, and pride.
I will serve with respect, responsibility, and pride.
Family members, if you'll come stand in front of your firefighter for the badge pinning ceremony.
Oh my gosh, that's just great. I totally didn't know.
Members of the community, family members, I present to you the newly promoted captains of the Oshtemo Fire Department.
I thought you were still. Okay, my apologies. I appreciate it. Sorry. So I just, I want to take a moment from the dais and congratulate you on your promotions to captain in Oshtemo's Fire Department. It's been a real pleasure to get to know your work more intimately. I've spent more time with Chief and Deputy Chief, and I've seen firsthand the amount of commitment and dedication, and certainly seeking promotion only exceeds that, knowing that you want to excel in your career. We're very proud to have a professional fire department in Oshtemo, and I wish to congratulate each of you. I'd like to offer the board, any other members of the board?
Congratulations to each of you. As a firefighter in a community, you do more than anybody else to protect the life and safety of our community members. And to take that responsibility to be a leader of people doing that, I commend you and thank you, because you do more than any of us ever could do to directly impact the lives of our citizens while putting your own life at risk. So to me, you are all heroes, and I greatly appreciate you stepping up to this challenge. Thank you.
Well, congratulations. You just signed up for more work. Did you realize that? At this time, I'm going to adjourn our meeting for about, I'm going to say 5 minutes, so that the families and our new captains can enjoy some time together. Thank you. We will return at 6:50.
It's your opportunity.
Face. I was like, this is Trace Bates. You are so cute. Yeah, we should get a picture really fast. She wasn't doing anything wrong. She's
Meeting back to order. That was really a fun thing to witness and be a part of. So thanks, Fire Department, for sharing that opportunity with the board and the public. Before we move forward through our agenda, I wanted to take a half a second, well, more than that. I would like to take a moment and see if we have the ability to hear Trustee Cole.
I'm not sure. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yay! Okay, sorry. I'm on my work laptop and I never know which speaker to pick, so apologies.
All right.
Yeah, but that's
thank
pretty
you.
cool. And I wanted to say, Michael, well said, perfectly said, what you said for the firefighters. Ditto.
So for those joining online, we're going to ask you to raise your hand, and John will signal that you're waiting to speak. So now we will continue on with our agenda, and we're on public official updates, and I'm pleased to say that this evening we have Sergeant Johnson, here from the Kalamazoo County Sheriff's Office to give us an update. I do want to, and please join us at the podium. I do want to just preface that after his update, I would like to give the board an opportunity. The sergeant will be joining us once a month from here out at our first meeting of our month, or first meeting of the month. And so we want to give him some feedback about what kind of material we would like to hear from them for their updates, okay? So the floor is yours.
Okay. First of all, I would like to say that I have worked for 3 different sheriff's departments in 29 years of police work, and the fire departments in those areas, they don't get along with each other, let alone us. They hate us. But coming here and working with these guys, it's like a family. It really is. They include us in everything they can. We can't always get together because of timing of, reports and things of that nature, but I've never been around a fire department that was so giving. And it's a joy to actually work with those guys, really. I've never seen it before. So I'd just like to say that. And then getting into the Sheriff's Office stats, for Oshtemo, in the month of August, we responded to 1,600 calls for service. And with the deputies we have, that probably averages out about 132 calls for each deputy that we have. That's a lot. We have 9 deputies that work out here, plus 2 sergeants. The deputies are working 12-hour shifts. We're working 10-hour shifts. That's the best that I can get right now to be able to rotate through my deputies for supervision here in Oshtemo. So at least I get to see them and go on scenes with them, critique, make sure they're doing things properly, that type of thing. So, and then those 1,600 complaints, I noticed that we had 227 traffic stops during that month. Would like to get more than that, but it is what it is, especially with the amount of calls during the day. We had 80 trouble with situations, and that could range from a whole different gamut of things. Verbal fights, people arguing, that type of thing. We had 66 accidents in the township during that month. 18 domestics, and vehicle thefts are still a thing. We had 17 of those. And what I'm noticing is that, and just in the last year or so, when people break into cars around here, they never used to break windows. That was a thing in the 90s that they used to do. Now you're starting to see that again. And what's happening is, if they see something in the car, a pocketbook, a laptop, because people leave that stuff, sitting out, they're going to break a window to get that stuff. If they don't see anything like that sitting around, 9 times out of 10, they're not going to break a window. to get in the cars. But we're seeing a lot more of that. We're seeing a lot more people leaving things in cars or leaving their cars unlocked. We have groups that come into the area, and I wouldn't even say they're from the area. They just get dropped off. I've seen it on camera. They get dropped off by a car, 4 or 5 of them, and they just go into the complexes and they just start checking doors, seeing what they can find. And they're successful, so that's why they do it. One thing I am pushing for with the apartment complexes is more cameras and more lights. We have way too many complexes that don't have cameras in optimal positions, and their lighting for a lot of them is not great. It doesn't illuminate certain cars in certain parking lots where, it kind of deters.
I'm sorry, I thought you were finished with that statement.
No, go ahead.
Oh, are you saying more lights in general, or are you going into complexes and finding that their lights are not working, or a combination of both? Like
Combination of both, but mostly there's no lights in that area,
Okay.
in those areas. And then, have some that the lighting is so old that it might as well not even be there. So, I've had some pushback from some of the complexes that said, well, we've gone to corporate and asked for cameras, and they say, no way, it's more expensive to have that than just to, but your residents are getting their cars broken into. We've had steering columns broken because they're still trying to steal the Hyundais and the cars and that nature. So, and I think some of that can be prevented. So, another thing that I found this summer we've had a lot of is a little bit of child neglect. And what I'm talking about is we've had quite a few calls where we've had wandering toddlers, unsupervised toddlers.
Where?
Up on H Avenue, we have a young gal that walked away 3 times. She walked a half mile from home, and she was 3 years old. No shoes, no socks, and she was just in a dress. And a citizen found her and called us. After an hour, she led me to her home, and when I went to the home, I thought there was a medical emergency. It was the reason why she was out, because she opened the door. I yelled and yelled and yelled and knocked and knocked, and no one came, and I'm thinking, oh, I got a medical emergency, so I got to go in here. Someone's in here hurt or whatever. Finally get upstairs, bang on the door, and someone wakes up. This young gal had been out and about for probably 45 minutes at that point, and no one was looking for her. We've had several at the apartment complexes in this same way. Andover, a kid from Andover who has some mental health issues, walked away from the home. Mom was sleeping, and he actually crossed 9th Street and went into Harding's, and he was 5. So we have to make that report. We have to contact CPS. We have to go through those avenues. So, and we have to send it over for a possible prosecutor review on any type of child neglect. So, thank goodness in those situations, those kids were not hurt, but the gal up on H Avenue, that was one of those 95 to 96 degree days, and she had no shoes and socks on. And she actually told the guy that my feet are, hot, and he picked her up and carried her to his home. So thank goodness for him. So, and that's all I have this month.
How are we doing on firearms-related calls? It seems, at least in the paper, that we've had a lot more firearm discharges and shootings going on throughout the course of this last year. I just wanted to know if you've...
We have had quite a few shots fired calls, and a lot of it is not like Oshtemo residents. It's coming in from other areas, people being called because someone said this or that, and you have someone coming over shooting, at people or at homes or cars.
Gotcha, okay.
We've had that, so
Okay.
we've had quite a few of those.
Are we finding resolution on these, or are they just kind of...
Well,
Nobody's talking, can't do anything about it.
and that's part of the problem. A lot of people aren't talking, but we do gather evidence that we have, and we've had some success on quite a few actually through evidence that we collect at the scene.
Okay.
So when I talk to forensics, they are encouraged by what they can find, and they have found. So
Any gang activity happening within the township that you guys have identified?
not particularly gangs anymore. We used to have that quite a bit. Roving gangs, not stationed here,
Sure.
but roving gangs, but we're not finding that as much anymore. You'll find, like, the complexes will go in spurts, where you'll have a bunch of juveniles, and then all of a sudden one year you won't have any in there. And then you'll get like what we call juvenile mischief, where they'll get together and just terrorize the area for, a day or two, and you trying to catch up with them,
Okay,
quite difficult,
absolutely.
so.
We had a call recently, it was unfortunate, somebody called our township line and left a message. They live at Hope Woods, and they were afraid there was like X-train activity across the street at Shell Station. However, they called and left that message on Saturday night at the township hall. I didn't even listen to it until Sunday afternoon.
Wow.
And normally it would have been Monday morning anyway, and I
Right.
thought, well, I hope they called the police.
Right.
Because I never knew if anything happened, but I live right over by there, and I felt like I would have noticed it, but I don't know. Have we had, Zach asked about gang activity, but do we know what's going on with the X-train activity?
We have had a lull on X-train lately, for us anyway. City's still
Probably
dealing.
inflation.
City's still dealing with theirs in certain neighborhoods, but for us, it's really kind of tapered down a little bit for now. So when they find an area they really like, they really kind of stick to it. I tell you what has really helped is the barriers up there behind the mall, because that was a hot spot, and that was, when they put those barriers up, it helped. I have to sometimes call the guy who's in Georgia to say, hey, someone moved one of your barriers, and I don't know how they're moving them. They must put a truck up against it and just, push it. They'll move one of the barriers and go in there, but they're really quick on getting those back in place. And it's been probably about a month, maybe two, since someone's moved a barrier, so we're good there. Because if you remember, that parking lot on Mondays, it was full of glass and full of trash, and it cost them big-time bucks just to clean that up, so.
What about you had that recent hit and run where the bicyclist was injured? And from what I can understand, it was in the middle of the day. And the
Yeah.
guy ended up like turning all the way around and going the other way down the road and
Yeah,
just in the wind.
that was one of the reports that was taken by state police, and I didn't find out about that until, when I actually saw it on the news. I'm like,
That's
why?
when I found
said,
out.
why don't I know about this? So I don't have any information on that one.
So are they investigating that?
Yeah, the state police is investigating
Oh,
that
okay.
one.
I have a couple of questions. You talked about the staffing here at the township, which meets our current contract requirements. I wondered, question's been asked to me a couple of times, how many open positions do you have are you even aware how many open positions you're still hiring for?
I don't know that
Okay.
question. That would be for the sheriff. I don't know.
That's okay.
I always want more.
And this won't be new news to you, but, obviously this board, previous boards have talked about the desire to have some sort of community policing. Does the sheriff's department currently provide that service in any other communities, or is there any talk about expanding that as a role of the sheriff's department?
I know that the sheriff wants to do that, and we did try to do that, but with the decrease in officers that we had to taper that because we had to take calls before we could do something like that. I would love to see CPOs come back, because because at a point we had CPO out here and it was fantastic. He's not with us anymore, but Dave did a great job out here keeping abreast with the apartment complexes and what's going on in there. He had charts and everything, and I'm like, man, this is great. We had some party days at the apartment complexes where they meet and greets and things of that nature, which was great. I would like to see that, but since COVID and all that and lack of deputies, we haven't been able to do that.
Okay. We're going to keep asking, just
Yep,
so you know.
yep.
I mean, it's definitely something.
And
I mean, given the fact that 50% of the residents of our township are renters, and the number of high-density complexes we already have, and the interest in building more high-density residential,
Yes.
I just see that as such a critical piece to, I mean, community connectiveness and safety and, really good things. So if you could find the body, I would talk to this board about finding the money. So,
Well, and I agree, and I would love to see that come back. And we have, we're staffed here in Oshtemo, but our general county has just now put more on, and we have several more going through the academy, so they'll go through training after their academy. So we won't be back up to full strength like we were in the past, but we're getting close.
Yeah.
We're getting real close, and I'm optimistic about it. And Oshtemo particularly received out of this last academy a couple of great new young officers, and I love supervising them because they want to learn. They treat the citizens right. They ask the questions that they need to ask. They're not, well, look at me, I'm a police officer now, I'll do what I want. No, none of that. We don't have any of that. So I'm encouraged by what we have coming out here.
that's great to hear. I have one other question, and it's not necessarily technical, but so like everywhere you see everybody's posting like pictures of stuff on images of people trespassing on their Ring cameras and all that, like, are you all finding that citizen sharing helpful in your work?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. We have a evidence program where I can go to them and say, hey, I'll send you a link, just send that to our evidence program. And it's so much easier now because I can get that video and I can take that and disseminate it out to other officers, and not just officers in the county, but probation, parole, community corrections, and we get identifications of suspects of certain things through those cameras because of that. And it's a big, big help.
Okay.
It really is. A lot of times, those cameras, they'll catch blurry images and like, oh, you can see them right there. It's like, no, we really can't ID them that way. But then there's others that are just fantastic pictures.
Okay.
And I've had a couple where people have come up to me and go, this is the person. And go, oh yeah, I know that person. That's so-and-so. And they're like, really? I'm like, yep. And it just, we'll do the process through that.
Oh, that's good to know. You see it more and more frequently.
Oh, yeah.
that
Oh, yeah. It
citizenship.
absolutely helps.
So I started my Citizen Sheriff's Academy last week, it was very interesting, great group of people. I just wanted to let you know that I did not choose Oshtemo for my ride-along.
You know what? And people commented on that. It says, your supervisor didn't pick Oshtemo. Why?
Because
You drive around here every day.
Right.
I said, if I wanted to do a ride-along with Javon, I could at any time. I'm like, so I was really curious to sort of see other communities. So anyway, I just,
Well, we have one ride-along already, and we have, I think, three more scheduled for Oshtemo, so.
yeah. So anyway, I'm excited to learn more and participate. But anyway, I just wanted to let you know, I didn't pick Oshtemo on purpose because you've offered to take me multiple times.
It was noticed.
That's the end of my question.
I have, and
Sign up.
and I do have a question for you. How many of your officers are CIT or crisis intervention trained, and is there any intention to, or any future thought on getting them trained? And I say this because I was looking through the list of calls, and there's a psych component to a great number of them.
Honestly, I believe all of them have gone through a CIT training, except for me. I think Sergeant Hill, who is our afternoon sergeant here in Oshtemo, is linked to the Kalamazoo team for CIT and hostage negotiation, so he gets called all the time for those. We just sent, I want to say a group of 4 to 6 to CIT training, and Lieutenant Harrison, that's one of his things, and so he's continually sending people through those trainings. So all of our optional deputies have gone through CIT training, or they will here in the next year, probably.
So would it be safe to say that if you get a call that sounds like crisis, a person who's trained in that is more likely to respond then?
No, I can't say that, but I can say they'll get called
Okay.
to come and assist, yeah, if needed.
Okay.
We've dealt with so many situations with mental health crisis and all that, it's, you kind of know what to say and what not to say, but the training is invaluable for them, so.
Excellent. Thank you.
If at any point we're asking you questions that you think would be better directed to Sheriff Fuller, just let us know that. But to piggyback off of what he just said, can you give us an understanding of how the officers that are here are using that virtual reality training that we contributed $12,000 to?
I'm going to get to do it as a part of Citizens Academy.
When they invited us out to do it with the launch, I really considered it, and I ended up not going, but,
They've all gone through some of that training, not all of it. We've had some issues with some of the equipment, and I do have it here. I've gone through it quite a bit. There are scenario trainings that are helpful, but they haven't gone through it a lot, I'll tell you that. It's a timing issue, really, and being able to schedule time for them to do it.
because I am interested, and maybe you can find out from the sheriff, how well our $12,000 investment's doing out there floating around somewhere over the Midwest in the virtual world.
In the virtual world.
Yeah.
It's an interesting
The
training.
SIM training is part of the Citizens Academy.
Well, we did not contribute $12,000 for citizens to take that training. We did it for the officers.
I understand that, but, then just think of that as a bonus use or something.
No,
but-
I think it's good that more people would take it, but I do want to know
And we have our pack here.
what's going on, because we haven't heard anything.
We have our pack here in Oshtemo that I keep in my office, that we, once I'm feeling more comfortable doing it and actually teaching it, I'll actually schedule times for people to come in and we'll do the training. And most likely hopefully it'll be in here, so you have a big room because you need space to do that. So,
Yeah. We can do that. We can set this room up for training for you guys.
Well, and I believe that the township has reached out to the sheriff's department and invited or asked for some assistance to do some training for our staff too, some de-escalation training. So I think that's coming.
we have had Deputy Kelm come in at least once or twice, maybe. Didn't he do some de-escalation training?
We did, what is it called now? We did training,
Oh, workplace violence, maybe?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
This is, I think, more just. some
Actual interactions.
Interactions,
one-on-one,
right,
yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Any other questions for the sergeant? Oh, go ahead, Neil.
I just wanted to thank you for coming into our voting precincts. I did not work August because my name was on the ballot, but you've stopped into precinct 2 when I've
Yep.
chaired there a number of times, and we've all appreciated you stopping and saying hi, seeing how everything was going there,
Yeah.
and
Thank you. I think that's
everybody
important.
really appreciated that.
Yep.
So I want to acknowledge that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, and actually, along with that, I'm sending 2 of my staff to some security training with the state of Michigan at the beginning of October. And this will be their second one where they can conduct some tabletop exercises, and the security is cybersecurity, but also physical security. And this is a long question, but so the state of Michigan just announced that they're going to have this sort of panic button feature for, it'll be available to every election worker in the state of Michigan. Right now, it's unclear to me how that is going to be any different from them calling 911. And
Right,
that has
right.
not been clarified to me.
Okay.
But my question is, if maybe sometime between now and the election, if maybe this board could get an update about what work is being done, or maybe collaboration with the county clerk's office, just to say, you know, here's what we're doing for elections.
Yep.
Certainly not right now on the spot, but we've got a little bit, just a little bit of time between now and
Yeah,
November.
normally the captains usually send out our agenda and what we're gonna do, so I'm pretty sure I'll get that here shortly.
But thank you for bringing that up, Neil, because the chairs do love it when you get at least.
I like going there. I like stopping in, talking, you know, seeing how it's going, that type of thing.
You just
I like
please
doing
don't be like Lieutenant Falk and hang out there for 6 hours, because then we got voters who don't want to show up because there's a
Right, and then
cruiser sitting right
the crew's sitting
outside.
there and they're intimidated. No, we don't do that, so.
Remember, there were communities that put out posters that said, if you owe child support, you can't vote, and cops are gonna be, you know what I mean? Like, there
Right.
are those tactics out
Right.
there that are, you can vote if you owe child support, just to be clear.
We have trustee Cole with a question, comment?
Yeah, I also wanted to reiterate, I think it was Neil, that I appreciate you coming. I think this is good, that you're going to be here once a month. I like that. And I also want to acknowledge that I have not parked in your favorite parking spot since we had that conversation, and I learned it was your favorite spot, so, yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I called you out on that.
My deputies will not park in that spot. They just won't. I got pushed in that spot when I was the young sergeant here because all the other deputies had 30 years and I only had 20 years, so I was the young guy, but still supervising them. And they're like, you're gonna park in the corner. So that's why I parked, and I've been parking there for 10 years.
Any other questions for the sergeant? Oh, hold on, you're muted, Kristen. Go ahead.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, and then it became my favorite parking spot as well. And we had that little conversation that day, and he said, "Oh, it's you that's doing this." So yeah, I have another spot. We're good.
Nice, thank you.
All right, thank you, Sergeant. I look forward to seeing you at our first meeting in October, which is October 8th, and we'll make sure you have a place on the agenda.
Okay.
And I think there's a few notes here, maybe of questions the board members have, that we'll shoot them your direction, just
Perfect.
so you
Perfect.
have them for you, okay?
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Next, I see our County Commissioner, Mr. DeLue. Thank you for being here.
I don't want to be long. You haven't even really started your meeting yet, and I'm sorry about that.
You haven't either. That's funny.
Just to piggyback what the sergeant said, you're getting your money's worth out of these deputies out here. In my day job, I actually monitor the sheriff's department. And these guys out here in Oshtemo are running. And also, congratulations to the new fire captains. Back in the 1980s, when I was working for the Kalamazoo City Police Department, they decided to go public safety. And I had to go through fire training. And it was kind of funny back then because the police and the fire didn't hate each other, but they were like, you know, the cops do nothing, the firemen only play volleyball and make dinners. And until you go through that training, I honestly, as anybody, you don't really respect a position until you go through it. And boy, there's so much more to firefighting than you think. And especially, I can't imagine these days, again, back in the 80s, all these chemicals and everything. And even just going through the training, I've been a cop now 40 years. I've never been so scared in my life. And it was in training. That's all. So I really respect the profession, and congratulations, and thank those young people for stepping up. Also, just real quick, I don't want to reiterate what the news has been saying, but Saturday we had the grand opening of the Justice Center. The Road Commission of Kalamazoo County has been granted $25 million by the federal government, and they're going to upgrade 130 miles of road to make them safer, is the goal. On the county board level, we had a little emergency management reshuffling. They'll now report to the county administrator. And probably like you, we are knee-deep in budget talks, so that's coming up. It's already September 10th, and our budget, and we need to vote on it in October, so we've been hitting that kind of hard. So, thank you. Any
Thank you,
questions?
Commissioner. Yeah, go ahead, Detsy.
The Office of Emergency Management, could you explain that a little bit more?
Well, it was kind of under the auspices of the sheriff.
It wasn't kind of, it was.
It was, okay. I was trying to be kind. And now it's not so much. Now it's, they're going to relocate to the county administration building. The county administrator will be, on the flow chart, he's kind of overseeing the office itself. Now, currently, there's no director. We have an acting director under Sheriff Van Dyken is currently doing it, but they will be hiring a full-time emergency management director in the future.
So I didn't understand why that move happened.
Well, after the tornado, of course, it always takes some tragic event to make changes. There was a lot of internal discussion about the communication or lack thereof. And our county administrator actually has experience in emergency management, and he just saw where he thought changing the status of the hierarchy would help the citizens and the county itself, and as far as running the entire program. So it was discussed at length in many different meetings, and
Yeah, I saw a blurb about it, and I'm like, this isn't gonna probably do it justice for how much discussion must have
right,
happened.
yeah, there was a lot of discussion. The sheriff was involved. It's not like, you know, it was just swept out from underneath him. He was part of the discussion as well. So. Okay.
I have a question about the $1.3 million the county has allocated towards a project to address the unhoused. Like, you know, where are you at in that process? Who's at the table? What is the vision?
There is something, I hate to say it, there's something in the works. As you also saw in the news, the pods are no longer a viable option because something else is being looked at, and that money's going to go there. And it's kind of a new, I don't want to say experiment, but it's a new idea that's kind of been borrowed from other communities, and hopefully soon it'll be made public.
So can I just make a plea to you as our representative on the county board?
Sure.
Not in this role as supervisor, but I believe when I was a trustee, there were efforts from well-meaning organizations to house people that were unhoused, and some of those folks were moved here in Oshtemo, which is fine. But what wasn't less fine was the fact that we as a community were not invited to the table during those decisions and discussions. So I just encourage you, not only for the benefit of Oshtemo, but as decisions are being made, that you include the communities in that conversation where the impact, where this money is going to be invested.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate that.
Anything else for?
I have one. Just, do you have a general time frame? Because that's a large sum of money, and with the pod situation being now done, the crisis is not getting better.
Correct.
It's getting worse. The number of people that I see who are unhoused is growing, and it's not the people you necessarily think. So there's a significant time issue here, because the longer you are unhoused, the harder it is to get back into housing. So is this being addressed in an expeditious manner, or is it just tied into bureaucracy?
No, it's like happening. It is happening. So it's not something that's just being thought of. It's being pursued, and steps have already been taken to make it happen. So.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Commissioner. Any other questions? No? All right. Have a great rest of your evening. Class dismissed. You are dismissed. Okay, we will close item number 6, public official updates, and move to item 7, our consent agenda. There are 2 items, the meeting minutes of August 27th, 2024, and receipts and disbursements. Do I have any members of this body wishing to remove any items from the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I have a motion by
Support.
trustee Farmer and support, thank you, by trustee Chapman. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 6 with 1 absent.
I really slurred all that whole thing.
Next, we move to item number 8, budget amendments, and we will start with the, let me get to the page here. So, page 5, we have budget amendments, and then on the dais today, there's an additional budget amendment that we will consider this evening. The online packet is updated, but we just delivered the additional amendment to you in paper, but you will find it online as well. So we will start with budget amendment number 1, which is facilities and maintenance. Do we have, Fire Chief is here to talk about these with you, so do you want to walk through this, Chief? And
Yes, so I had Greg Fountain approach me the end of last week and said, we got a problem in our maintenance services line item. We were 39 cents in the red due to unexpected failures of equipment at the stations. And that is listed in here, HVAC systems, garage doors, water heater at this station. That we typically put 12,000 in that budget line item for the unknown problems that will pop up like that. Those came out to $22,623. There's other things that we were able to pull from. We said we can wait and not do those, but that line item is finally drawn down to where we're in the red. So what we're asking for, since we do have a few months left in this year, is to put 12,000 in there from paid on call payroll. That I believe there's going to be enough money left in there from what we see that we're paying out in that payroll line that we should be able to cover that without an issue.
any questions for the Fire Chief on this budget amendment? Okay,
Was this one a part of the ones that were rejected last meeting?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so. Those aren't in here at all, right?
Nope, they'll be back, I believe, the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
We did do a general systems repair for 12,000 in that line. We did do that. We didn't leave you high and dry. But this budget amendment, it was also my suggestion because of what they reported on for paid on call. That's where I was suggesting that it come from. But we did do the 12,000. There have just been a lot of repairs. And a slight clarification of the board, this line is not over budget yet. There's still $7,000 in an encumbrance, but it's already dedicated for something else. I just wanted to say that we didn't run this budget line item to negative.
Right.
Okay, just in case.
Just projected to.
It is.
Until now.
It is projected to.
any,
Yeah,
I
did you-
think given last meeting, yeah, I will do these one at a time. So any conversation in the board on this item?
I move to approve the budget amendment in the, as described in the memorandum, subject budget amendment facilities maintenance.
I'll second.
I have a motion by trustee Ford and a second by clerk Farmer. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 6 with 1 absent. The next is Also, Chief McComb, budget amendment for a used fire engine purchase.
Yes, so I think some of the board members know, others may not, that we are hurting on our fire engines. Our oldest apparatus, which was due to be replaced when the new one comes in, which we're guessing is going to be around February. That engine is, the frame is rusted out really bad. It is a 1994. It is typically sitting out at the station number 3 as a reserve apparatus. It's on its last leg. We're not sure it's going to make it through the winter. We were hoping the new engine would come in before it actually fails on us. Well, when we took our frontline engine out, which is out of this station, and had the annual maintenance done on it, the frame on that is shot bad also. Bad enough that they were able to take a screwdriver and poke through one of the cross members on the frame. So what we're looking at now is a little more of a crisis, that we've got 2 engines that may not make it through the winter. So thinking outside the box, we wanted to see if the board would entertain us buying a used fire engine with a good frame. Number one question that I have when we look at these engines. I believe that we can do it for $100,000 or under, and that would be the cost of the engine and then outfitting. And I think we can get away with quite a bit. Like there was an engine from a Michigan department that we're looking at. As an example, the tires are at their date for replacement every 7 years per NFPA standard. The tires that we have on the engine that is our frontline engine now will fit, so we'll swap them out. Emergency lighting to update to newer LED lights instead of the old halogen lights, we'll just swap them out. So the cost will be mostly hours put into swapping equipment around and not buying new equipment for it. And that is my ask. I'm not specifying a certain fire engine because I know the one that we've looked at has another department looking at it. And it could be gone today for all I know. There is some others that we've been looking at also and scrutinizing, but I want to have the ability to say, I've got this money sitting aside, so when we do find the one that will work for us and that we can outfit, that I've got it available to go and I won't have to come back to the board to seek permission and possibly lose it if we have other people looking at it.
Chief, just to be clear then, the request is the $100,000 to go ahead and buy that used engine, outfit it, and it will replace 2 engines, a reserve engine and an engine that was about to be replaced in February, correct?
Yes.
So we're gonna scrap those 2, sell them, do whatever, take parts from them, bring the used one in. It's gonna work for us all winter until the new engine comes in, and then this one will go into reserve status behind the new engine, right?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
How long do fire engines typically last?
So we used to try to get 20 years out of a fire engine and 25 out of a ladder truck. Here at Oshtemo, we've gotten busy enough that we need to start shortening that down. And we're still playing with the numbers. I am going almost as short as, and it's not going to be affordable. You're not going to like to hear this, but 8 years. 8 years, and we need to start looking at replacing engines.
Or drive them less. 8 years?
8? So that's the question I have. This is an emergency. I'm not going to stand in the way of an emergency, but I want to know what's being done to preserve the life of this very significant investment.
Yep.
A fire engine's not cheap.
Yep.
It's not cheap. And if it's going this fast, what are we doing to ensure the responsibility of the fire department and the investment of the community? It's a lot of money. All of our citizens pay a decent millage to support the fire department. What are we doing to ensure that investment is wise and being used appropriately?
Yep, so we've started and right now we brought the newer engine that we had at Station 2 is now running out of Station 1, which this is by far the busiest station. And then we took the truck that we're worried about, put down there that'll be used less often. We're running a ladder truck out of Station 2 more often than the engine, so we're not, you know, if we get hit with a fire in the trailer park, they're taking the engine. Ladder truck's not gonna do any good, but for the most part, they're running the ladder truck out of Station 2, the newer engine out of here for now. When the new one comes in, the new one will come here, we'll get some miles put on it, and once we start, we may surpass by 10, 15,000 miles and swap them.
But still, if an engine is only going to last 8 years, is it being used appropriately? Is it being used wisely? Are we maintaining it appropriately? Or do you not have the facilities you need to properly, I mean, 8 years for that large of an investment,
Yep.
I don't think that's
Yep.
normal.
Eight
Yeah, we're
years
never
is
gonna buy another
definitely,
one.
8 years is definitely a scary number, and that's because of what I'm seeing and how much these are running, the miles that we're putting on them, that I think that timeline is really shrinking down. I don't think 8 years is sustainable in our budget, so we're gonna be pushing them out as we normally do, but I wanna plan for the worst. We do use small vehicles, so when we have a medical, at either one of the stations, if we get hit with a medical, the small vehicles go first. If a second medical comes in, which 33% of our calls have a second hit, the engine goes at that time. We do not send a second small vehicle out because we gotta have an engine on the road. We have been caught a few times out on medicals. I can tell you the crews do not like taking the small vehicle. They like small vehicles for the maneuverability, the quickness to get to where we gotta go to help people. But we have been caught a few times where we get hit with a fire and we're in a small vehicle and there's nothing that we can do.
So the question I'm going to ask is, should we be responding to medicals? And that is something I don't expect you to be able to answer right now, but in time, I would like to see the difference in time from when our crews arrive and other medical crews arrive, and whether it's the best use of our equipment to respond to medicals, or if the need is truly there in the community. So I would not ask you that now. It would be horribly inappropriate, but down the road, I would like to see that data to see if we're truly having an impact and if that impact is worth the cost.
Yeah, I think the data will be pretty easy for us to get, so I could have that probably within the next month.
Thank you.
I see trustee Cole has her hand raised.
Yeah, Michael asked a couple of the things that I wanted to ask, but I mean, I was blown away when you just said that a truck that we purchase and expect to last for 20 years minimum, we're looking at 8 years. So I guess my question is, what are we, as a department of our size, have we grown so much that we're not purchasing enough equipment or the right types? Like, what are we doing differently? Or is this just something that's happening to other similar departments? Because
Yeah, there's a
I
few
know
things
we've
to
grown,
this.
but yes, what am I missing here?
Yep, there's a few components to this. One, and I think everybody will agree that newer equipment being built now isn't as good as it used to be. Our 1994 engine is held up and is doing as good as the 2008 engine. They're both rotting frames, but the older equipment is just a better piece of equipment, heavier frames, heavier duty, no technology. The other issue that I see with Oshtemo, and it's about how busy we are. If you look at, let's say Comstock or Kalamazoo Township, they're running out of 3 stations and they run less calls than we do. And so their vehicles are all going a third of the calls each. At this station, since this is in the busy area and this one runs the majority of the calls, I would say probably 65%, 70% of the calls are run out of this station. So this vehicle gets used much more than the vehicles out of Station 2. And we're also looking at, with our staffing now, we're doing I haven't put this out in a memo yet, but paid on-call firefighters, I'm asking to start signing up at Station 1 first. Let's get Station 1 fully staffed, and we're gonna split crews. So we'll have 2 and 2. So if a medical comes in, 2 go in the small vehicle. If another medical comes in, then we've got an engine up here that can still go. And a lot of times we're getting hit with a second call up here where we're waiting for Station 2 to respond up. So we're trying quite a few things that are outside of what we would ordinarily do to try to calm this down. But we're a very busy department, and the crews up here at the station are extremely busy.
Trustee Cole still has her hand raised.
Yeah, I just, so that makes me think, I mean, because we have grown so much as a township, maybe, I mean, are we outdated? Is our infrastructure, our facilities, our equipment outdated? Do we need to look at putting substations in key areas where we make a lot of medical runs and have just the medical vehicles go versus the engine going from, a station that's much further away? I think we need to look at some new ideas because of our growth.
I appreciate these comments from Trustee Cole. I share some of these same concerns, and I'd like to request that we have this conversation as a board at another meeting. But if we could please get back to discussing the amendment to the budget that's in front of us, I'd like to do that and move forward.
Are there any other questions from anybody on what I'm asking for this?
I move to approve the budget amendment for used fire engine purchase. That's the subject of the memorandum.
Support. Motion by Trustee Ford, support by Treasurer Bushra.
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6 with 1 absent.
Thank you. Hopefully this will help pull us out of this slump for a while.
Are you going to have a chance to make an offer on this truck right away then?
Yeah, I'll be calling tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Call them right now.
Leave a message.
Good luck, Chief. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have a budget amendment. I hope you didn't miss any cake, Chief.
I'm going to make sure I don't have anything else coming up here.
I know.
Oh, right, I forgot, I have to go to the bathroom.
No, I think you're
Do
all
you want to do
set.
my budget amendment? Oh,
Okay, save me a piece. Next, we have a budget amendment from Public Works for the KL Avenue Shared Use Path. We have Public Works Director Anna Horner here with us. Anna, did you want to speak to this budget amendment?
sure. This is both for Phase 1 and Phase 2 of KL Avenue. The first portion is as part of one of our easement negotiations. We are replacing some landscaping that was in one of the temporary easements granted to us. This was anticipated and it is in the budget. However, because it's essentially a pass-through cost, we paid as part of the fair or the good faith offer this money, and they're essentially paying it back then to cover these landscaping costs. I didn't assign it as a revenue and was informed it still needs to be included that way in the budget. So we will get paid by the property owner for this, and then we will pay to get the landscaping installed. It was just the way it was recommended to process it through the easement acquisition so that we could remain at the assessed value of the easement. So that's a big chunk of this. And then the other portions are for Phase 2. We are under design with that portion of it. So this is from the bridge to the west to Copper Beach was what it was when I went to Western, and now it's the Paddock, but the road is still Copper Beach Boulevard, I think. So thank you for that, because I do lose track of what they're calling them. But so the first one is for wetland permitting. This is right just west of the bridge in front of Colonial Manor. We are going to be putting a boardwalk through that section, actually, which will be unique, but really nice, I think. And so we do have to impact some wetlands. And so we are going to meet with the Department of the Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, Eagle, which is included in this cost. And then they help us with our permit and any mitigation efforts we're going to have to take to compensate any disturbance to wetlands. And then this is a new one for me. I've done probably 30 projects through the local agency program using federal funds, and I have never had an archaeological survey triggered. And so, I mean, it makes sense to me, I guess, for this area. So this will be my first process of going through this, but included in the packet was the proposal from the qualified consultant, Orbis Environmental Consulting. They will be a subcontractor to our engineering consultant, and they will complete this work. So unless they find something, then it's a little confusing that it's a Phase 1 archaeological survey for Phase 2 of the KL Avenue path. But kind of like an environmental Phase 1 that gets done, it might trigger a Phase 2 if they find anything. So this is just the first step. So it will be interesting to see what they find, or if they don't find anything. So those are just all items related to keeping that project moving forward.
Thank you. Anna, do we have any questions for the Public Works Director regarding this budget amendment?
Do we have any idea what triggered the MISHPO inquiry? Because I would like to understand that better, because it could have significant budget impacts for the future, and it doesn't seem an obvious thing. It seems kind of unique and peculiar.
Yeah.
Do we have any, did they give us anything on that?
I have not heard of specifics at this point. The initial review is done by a staff person at MDOT. And so they must have, I think they have it's called a desktop review. So they have some of their, initial resources that they search, and if something comes across from, usually the maps they're looking at are pretty macro in definition, and so it can, trigger an area like this to get reviewed. My understanding is these have been coming up a little bit more frequently on these types of projects too, that now MDOT has a dedicated staff person looking more specifically at these. And so they have been being required more often. So I have not heard yet. I mean, the things that come to mind are this is the headwaters of Arcadia Creek. So I don't know if that would have been some kind of significance that people were going to that. That's really the only environmental component I can think of that area, but we've put a bridge in, we've put in utilities. There's big consumers lines going through this area, and nothing's ever been recorded before in those projects, so.
I heard it might have been a watering hole for dinosaurs. That's what you were supposed to say.
Okay.
Isn't that what Kalamazoo means?
So to Trustee Chapman's point, could get very expensive, but.
Hopefully nothing's found.
Yeah, so I'm not anticipating anything, but again, I have not been through this process before. Yeah.
Thank you.
I move to approve the budget amendment for $36,000 from capital outlay to the KL Ave non-motorized project line.
Support.
Motion by Clerk Farmer and support by Trustee Ford. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 6 with 1 absent. Next, we will review Public Works again. Parkview Avenue legal fees, consultant budget amendment.
I have a question before we start this. Did we discuss this line, Anna? Did we discuss this budget amendment?
The
You and I?
KL Avenue one or this one?
Yeah. No, we're on to the Parkview.
I don't think so.
We don't need to move this money. That's money for a consultant that is for that one project, for the the NMPRKV line. We don't have to move this money. You can spend it right out of that line for this. Right, there's money in it because we're taking the money out. We can spend it right out of this. We don't have to move it to a consultant line.
Because it's for Parkview?
Because it's for
Yeah.
because it's for Parkview and it's one project. If you would like to do it for accounting, then that's fine with me,
Yeah,
but
I guess
that's not a
I had
requirement.
seen it as over the dollar amount that it needed to come, because it wasn't specifically detailed as a blue line for this purpose and the dollar amount.
Well, so and I noticed you said that on the other one as well. That is the spirit. You are encompassing the spirit of the purchasing policy, but the dollars were approved for the project, and there is money for the project. So that's not a budget amendment that has to come before this board, even though it doesn't say this is going to be $4,000 that goes to Integra Realty. Like, it doesn't say that, but it does say,
Dusty,
budgeted
I am
for-
trying to live out the
I know you
purchasing
are.
policy the best out of
I
any
know.
staff member. Don't
I
steal
know.
my thunder.
I know.
Just kidding. It would
I
save
know
us
you
a
are.
lot of time, so if that's
I-
what.
I know, and I don't want to waste your time in the future for things like
Sure.
this.
I think if we could clarify that a little bit more in the purchasing policy for
Which
my
was
department.
well received. I did receive, yes, and I was dabbling in that today. So,
Okay.
I think we actually need to have a really good internal meeting with some key staff to review the latest iteration of the purchasing policy, because we're gonna need to get that back before the board before the end of the year. And I've been receiving suggestions from the fire department, from Public Works, myself, and actually the supervisor. That was one of the first ones I put in there. So I think that it's important that we go through that and continually improve that policy so that you don't have to keep doing this.
Sure, I would appreciate that.
So,
So do we need to do this?
Do we need to? Do we not?
Anna, do you want that in a separate line for,
No.
then no, we don't
Okay.
need to do this at all.
It's for Parkview.
Okay, then,
No,
they will take,
we can-
how would that be reflected?
We don't have to do anything. We're not doing anything.
Withdrawn.
I only record board action. We didn't take action,
Okay.
so I'm not recording.
Okay, I just,
No, it's a good question.
again, Public Works, stormwater system maintenance, cleaning and televising for evaluation purposes.
So hopefully this memo explained each of the specific parcels and work related to them. I guess in an overarching sense, I just want to share with the board that Public Works has been getting a lot of inquiries about stormwater. And, you know, a lot of it is because of the increased storm events that we are experiencing across the state and the nation. I will say, I also think a large portion of it is that stormwater is sometimes one of those out of sight, out of mind things, and it does require a lot of maintenance. And there's a lot of ways that we can protect our groundwater by doing the right thing by managing stormwater and runoff when it occurs. And so I think, you know, it's not typical that we've had to take on much stormwater work or projects, but I really do think that some of these areas that have been really developed, they need more coordinated effort. We cannot just keep letting stormwater be managed in isolation. The ground does not end at a property line. The groundwater doesn't care where your property line is. And so we've been seeing a lot more projects where we need to start looking at stormwater much more comprehensively and in districts per se. So these are some of those coming to fruition. And I think the township isn't always a key contributor of direct runoff, but we are the agency that can help facilitate that and then connect people and allow them to have those conversations and bring professionals to provide solutions. So that's more of a big picture of some of this work. And then if you have any questions about the individual ones, I'm happy to talk through them.
Do you have any questions for Ms. Horner?
no, I move to approve the budget amendment described in the memorandum, subject stormwater system maintenance, cleaning, and televising for evaluation purposes.
Support.
I have a motion by trustee Ford, support by trustee Chapman. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries 6-0. Next, you have a budget amendment request for you in front of you for a purchase of office furniture. As we have continued to repurpose spaces and that can accommodate more people, we are requesting the opportunity to purchase some office furniture for the new staff, particularly Public Works, our new engineer. I'd like to see there's a very sizable space that I'd like to repurpose into additional workstations, not only for drop-in or hybrid staff, but also professionals like our CPA that come to work at the office. It would provide them with a location. And we also have staff that frankly, the furniture, pieces of their floor mats and whatnot are disintegrating and just need to be repurposed. So the request is to move $6,000 from capital outlay cemetery buildings and grounds that it's currently allocated for building, particularly carpeting that is in the blue line, and reallocate those funds to purchase office furniture.
And I have a question.
Sure.
It kind of looks like they're from the same
They are.
line to the same line?
They are, but the blue line in that
This is
GL
a
number.
real one. This is a real one.
I'm looking it
go
up,
ahead.
that's what, so
So there's.
Just seemed kinda strange.
So in the blue line, there's money allocated for carpet repair or replacement that I'm anticipating will not happen in 2024. And I am requesting that $6,000 of that GL number now be reallocated to purchase office furniture. Because that's not in the GL. It's not in the blue line, thank you.
Well, or rather, the money is in the
Yes.
blue line, and we said that it's for carpet, and now we're
saying
saying,
it's
let's
for-
not do it for carpet, let's do it for desks and chairs instead.
That we need.
One more time, we're pushing that carpet away, huh?
Yeah.
Well,
I'm
I
sorry.
actually told her to not say the word carpet today. Just stop.
We're getting tile.
But there's no way. And it needs part of bigger.
I mean, okay.
Like bowling, like a basketball court?
So are there any particular specific questions, I guess?
I don't have any.
No, thank you for clarifying that. Now I can, didn't have a lot of time to read the memo.
It was about 5 seconds.
I'm still concerned about, we're not doing anything with the carpet, and then we're putting nice furniture on it. I mean, if the carpet floods or isn't in good condition, isn't it going to affect the?
Well, there's stuff on the carpet right now. It would just be a change of making it usable office space instead of a place where there's just a bunch of stuff stored.
Or like in the South Conference Room, there's a conference table, and we've got a bunch of broken chairs in there, which is nice. But now we're gonna get rid of those, figure out a different place to put that table, and put desks and actual office chairs that can be.
I don't mean to speak for my fellow trustee, but I think.
Also, all the carpet is bad in the office, so there's no good carpet anywhere in there.
I think the concern is spending on furnishings, carpet, furniture, when we're not taking care of the carpet, which we've all agreed was a problem we've been kicking down the road. I think that's the
Which I
concern.
think is a
don't know
good
if that-
point.
Thank you.
But we know that Greg is not gonna be able to get to carpet this year. It's just not gonna happen.
And-
We had too many hurdles at the beginning of the year that prevented that from happening. And you could also view this as being, we're trying to find a place in the budget to spend money so that we're not pulling money from our savings account. The request could be very similar to what the Public Works request was, which is to pull from carryover.
Carryover, yeah.
We could do it that way, but we're in that time of year where we've hit the middle mark of the year. From here till the end, we're gonna be looking for other places within the budget to find money to not pull from our savings accounts, right? This is that time. This is what I talked about, a little earlier this year in June, when we talked about the budget process. Beginning of the year, for new things, things that had developed since we approved the budget in October of the year prior until January, there's always gonna be a list of things. We forgot this, we need to do this, this has changed. Those requests are going to always come from carryover. No one's paying attention, so I'm gonna stop talking until whatever that is can get fixed.
Does anybody here have their mic on?
I hear it out there somewhere.
Does anybody know who's gonna take it?
I hear it down there.
I guess it was that camera.
I guess the thought is if,
Well, no, I want to finish what I was saying. So, at the beginning of the year, we take money from carryover, right? Because we assume we're going to accomplish every project that we have budgeted for and planned for. But after the middle of the year, we stop taking from carryover. That's when we start looking at, okay, this is a newer request, what else are we anticipating? Because at this point, maintenance knows what they're able to get done and what they're not. Fire department knows what large purchases they're gonna make, or maybe the self-contained breathing apparatus grant didn't come through, right? So that's when we try to get more creative so that we're not pulling from the savings account. That's the full statement. If that helps
So I
shape
think
this
there's
any
two-
better.
I mean, so the carpets, there's two things. Number one, Dusty's, thank you. Dusty's completely right. Maintenance was a staff of 2 for everything up until like a month ago.
Can you help me understand what the,
And
What-
$60,000 will not be adequate. After seeing what things cost as far as, purchases coming through the township for various things, $60,000 will not replace the carpet. It will take more money than that.
so are we planning to do the carpet next year? Is that?
I
like,
think
a
that, I
general,
think
like,
you all
consensus
want
at
to
this
have a
point?
conversation about it because, the foyer needs repairing as far
Okay,
as.
so we're gonna have this conversation in the coming weeks, it sounds like, right? As we're putting
Probably
this
pretty.
25 budget together?
Pretty soon. I think it sounds like,
in 10 minutes?
no, today we're doing parks, building, and police. So,
Okay.
but we will have that conversation.
Okay.
Building department isn't cemeteries, buildings, and grounds, which is where, what these guys, the trustees are talking about.
I make a motion to approve the budget amendment in the memorandum subject purchase of office furniture.
Support.
Motion by trustee Ford, support by trustee Sikora. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 6-1. Put that little baby right in there. Next, we have Attorney Porter to discuss the amended resolution for issuance of the Industrial Facilities Tax Exemption Certificate for Faraday Defense Corporation, Faraday Properties LLC.
As the board will recall, you approved this. It was only after we received approval that the timeline became apparent to us. That's not going to be as quickly as we had anticipated. And so what this request is an amendment indicating that the project will not be completed until basically January 31, 2027. So it's going to start next year and take probably 2 years to complete. And they want to make sure that the IFT then, the 12 years begins at that date.
Thank you, Attorney Porter. I want to just make a note that I just went,
I was readjusting my minutes because I was like, oh, this got off the rails.
I turned the page. So, instead of,
That was
I
supposed to
didn't
come
have
after the
the
budget.
agenda in
You're
front of me, so I went out of order in the agenda.
We'll forgive you.
I mean, we can still do it this way, though.
All right,
do it?
so
Yeah.
let's do it.
You've started.
So, are we going to then?
We're on item 10, right?
Yeah,
Backwards to the.
That's fine.
all right, why don't we'll finish 10, 11, and 12, and then we'll go back and do continued budget discussion at the end. I think we'll still be in good
That
shape.
sounds good.
So you have an amended resolution for the issuance of the IFT for Faraday. And
I move to adopt the amended resolution for issuance of the Industrial Facilities Tax Exemption Certificate for Faraday Defense Corporation / Faraday Properties LLC.
Support.
a motion, or this is a resolution. Clerk will call the roll.
This is a roll call. Trustee Cole is absent. Trustee Chapman?
No.
Trustee Ford?
Yes.
Trustee Sikora?
Yes.
Treasurer Bushka?
Yes.
I vote yes. Supervisor Bell?
Yes.
The resolution is adopted 5-0 with one voting, or 5-1 with one absent, Cole absent, sorry.
Moving on to agenda item number 11, we have consideration of equipment loan agreement with Texas Township. Clerk Farmer?
Thank you. Just give me 1 second. Yes, first of all, I'd like to thank Attorney Porter for his office assisting with this sort of short notice request this week. Texas Township is in need of additional regular tabulators for the November election, and I have tabulators that are just sitting in a closet. I will keep one as a backup, which is standard practice I have every time, but I have 3 additional tabulators that were replaced by the high-speed tabulator that we will not be using. And I would like her to, the clerk there, Emily Beadle, to be able to borrow those free of cost for this election only. She is open to anything of purchasing them, renting them, a number of things. That's all appreciated. I'm not ready to sell them. I want to hold on to them for a little bit longer. But I am willing to let her borrow them. It would put minimal use on our tabulators. I don't see any issue with that. Certainly security would also not be an issue. They would have someone who has either taken the oath or directly from their clerk's office who would transport them, come pick them up and bring them back after the election. I don't anticipate getting them back after the election though until after the state canvassers have closed their canvass. And I'm open for any questions.
I've got 2 questions, but somebody else should go first because one of them just slipped off my top of my
Okay,
head.
okay.
Just out of curiosity, why do they need 3?
That was one of them.
So Texas Township,
No, that was the one.
Texas Township is in this position that I know this township has been in before, where you don't have quite enough voters to justify a $40,000 expenditure for a high-speed tabulator. But you need additional help or you will be in your office until 4 o'clock in the morning for a general election, a presidential election. And I do not wish that on anyone because I have done that and I don't want anyone to have to do that again. And so because of that, because she also already has her own that she uses for her absentee counting board, that just further minimizes the amount of use that would happen to ours because she's going to split it across all of her AV boards. Which was a really good idea. I would have definitely wanted to take advantage of that at some point as well.
Thank you.
That was the question that I couldn't remember. So the next question, you say you were loan these free of charge?
Unless the board has a suggestion for that, I have no reference or desire to charge any dollars.
Yeah.
I mean, it's gonna cost them money to come get it and set it up. They're gonna have to do the testing on it, and then they'll bring them back.
No, I understand that, but that's an asset for elections that the public of Oshtemo owns. And I
Well,
have some
that
concerns
is
that
true.
we're buying election equipment for the voters and residents of Texas Township.
Well, we're not
without
buying that
proper-
for them. We've
Well, I
already-
mean,
they're
we're-
already
we're
purchased
loaning
and
them
it
free
was.
of charge, so.
We purchased those not with direct taxpayer dollars from Oshtemo. They were purchased with state dollars.
Okay.
So that provides another level of comfortability for me. And the way that we use tabulators here in the county, or the way we select tabulators, it's done county-wide. So we were all a part of this process where we selected the vendor and we made the purchase, decided what to spend those grant dollars on. And we also try to work as a team as much as we can here. And there are a lot of challenges for that because of the differences in populations. It means that ultimately we have different needs But in this case, this is a very similar need that I could identify and certainly empathize with. So I don't feel as though we are improperly spending Oshtemo taxpayer dollars in any way.
Yeah, I mean, from the spirit of cooperation, all of that seems fine.
Mm-hmm.
From a perspective of like black and white letter, what does the law say? It doesn't seem right to me, but I don't know. I guess I would
I mean,
like to
'cause
know
black and
if
white-
Jim has an opinion on that, because it just feels like we're gifting a thing of value. We can't even give electricity away if we pay for it to a person charging an electric vehicle, so how can we?
Well,
call
again, we
an
didn't
election
spend
instead?
Oshtemo tax dollars on this equipment. We did not directly do
You could say that, but that money came into us as revenue and got expended by us, right? So we did spend the money. It was our money. We didn't have to spend it. We could have refused it, I suppose.
Actually, I don't even know if that's how we did this. I'd have to go back and really.
So
look.
it just feels funny to me on this, at that basic like exchange of value here between the communities, and it feels weird. I don't know.
And when I
I borrowed a tabulator in 2020.
Cool.
I don't think technically there's any violation that would constitute an improper lending of credit, simply because you can't quantify the value of the exchange.
Right.
Technically, I mean, they're going to use the machine, but is it depreciating because they're using it? Would it be worse if it sat in a closet? I couldn't quantify it.
Right.
Because I couldn't quantify that. I didn't think there was any improper lending of credit.
Fair enough. All right. Now, if the future conversation around purchasing these comes to fruition, I'd like to see that. I don't want us to get in a situation where we're repeatedly loaning
Oh,
these
no,
things
this
out.
would be a one-time situation.
Okay.
She really did offer to buy them from me now, and I'm not ready to make that decision.
Sure.
Anytime in the next 56 days.
Fair enough. I get it. It makes sense to have them here too, so.
Yeah, and I will still retain one, and one is really the standard for having a backup.
All right, then with the understanding that we're not gonna continue to do this, I'm comfortable. Thanks for indulging my questions.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't really concerned about it. I thought maybe there should be like, a token dollar or something like that, or whatever, some transaction, some silly transaction, but then people will talk about, well, why did you do a silly dollar transaction, and people are gonna talk or whatever. And I think the more you work with elections and tabulators and everything, you appreciate how important they are to enjoying your day as an election worker and getting the work done. And if someone else is in need like that they would benefit from it, the bigger picture of supporting elections in the county, I think I definitely am in favor of going through with this. I appreciate your entertaining it and making the connections with her or with the clerk, and I support this. And I would even make it as a motion if you're ready. If you're not ready,
The only other thing I was gonna add is that there is an opportunity for equipment purchases probably later on through our early voting agreement with the county. But honestly, that was a much bigger hurdle to cross because there are 18 people in that agreement. And there will be some tabulators that are just sitting there not doing anything, but and it sounds funny too, I know that I say we're in a time crunch and it's September 10th. Believe me, we're in a time crunch because we have to start testing our ballots within the next probably week or two. And she's gotta have these in her possession before that happens, so, but thank you, and.
and I believe the Supreme Court just ruled to keep someone's name on the ballot for a certain party just yesterday or the day before, so
Yes.
you're going to be on getting ballots printed and the system, it's a short time.
It is.
So unless anyone has any other comments, I make a motion to approve the agreement to loan the 3 DS-200 tabulators to Texas Township for the 2024 November general election.
Second.
Motion by trustee Sikora, second by trustee Ford. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6 with 1 absent. I'm going to draw your attention to item 12, which is actually I will be asking for your consideration. There is no memo in the packet. This is, in part, first part will be informational, and then the second part will be asking for consideration and direction moving forward. I don't have the date off the top of my head, but the Chevy Colorado that the township purchased after our Southwest Michigan Building Authority dissolved and the township formed its own building department was involved in an accident and totaled. Attorney Porter had an opportunity to speak with our insurance agent today, and after the deductible, the settlement offer from the insurance company was $28,803.
Correct. What was the year?
2021.
2021.
All right.
So we find ourselves without a vehicle that is needed, that we've been waiting for, and thanks for assistance from Clerk Farmer and Attorney Porter, getting through the process of all of the steps you all know behind the scenes you have to do with your insurance company before you get to this stage, which included whether they evaluated whether they were going to repair or total the vehicle. So at this time, I would look for the support of the board to go ahead and, number one, accept the offer from the insurance company. Attorney Porter shared that the insurance company does, in their evaluation, they go a J.D. Power comparison and a market study, and I believe you said it actually scored out higher than the Kelly Blue Book value.
Correct. Yeah,
So
about $1,000 above what Kelly Blue Book would say at the top end.
So we need to replace the truck. I'm looking for support to accept the offer by the insurance company, move forward with the purchase of another vehicle. You would see more details about, I mean, I don't even know what the purchase price is going to be yet, but I need some direction, board support to even move forward before we.
That's fine with me if you'd like to move forward with purchasing a new vehicle, but I won't be voting yes unless it's a battery electric vehicle.
Well, okay,
Not even a hybrid.
good to know.
We'll buy a charger, install one as part of it.
Do we need a
I'm thinking this one through. Because you're not wrong, that's what would have to be the next step, though. We have to install a charger. That would have to be a part of this whole thing, which requires a lot more thought than the fact that we have a building official who has to have a truck to do his job 2 weeks ago.
Right.
So,
Just sharing my opinion on the future of a new asset at the township. I think there's other ways to get through until the board were to allocate the funding for you to buy something.
well, but that all have to be planned out. That has to be properly planned out. That's the same issue, like if we're gonna start installing vehicle charging stations here, we have to have a plan for that.
Well, where do you park the car?
Well, sometimes anywhere we can find a spot.
Okay.
I mean, which is another problem, right? We're talking about, we've run out of places. That maintenance garage has been on here for a long time for a reason, because we need it. We just haven't been able to make it happen because staffing has been crap for the maintenance department, right? It's been a real challenge. So we're talking about, I would fully support having a complete policy that says, this is how we purchase vehicles, and these are the things we take into consideration, and we want to have, by a certain date, this many vehicles, or this percentage of vehicles electric, you know, from our fleets. I completely support that, but I don't think we can get that done in the time we're gonna need to have this truck for the building official. and his work isn't gonna slow down over the winter like some other folks will. He will still need to go out and do these.
I mean, if that's the direction that,
Yeah.
I mean, I wrote down, looking at a purchasing policy related to vehicles. I know and I appreciate where you're coming from, Zach. You've long been a proponent of electric vehicles and expanding renewable energy in the township. So if that's the direction this body wants to go, then we're going to need to rent something for the building department in the meantime.
Or you can buy something used with cash from your settlement, perhaps, but under your $28,000 number. Something cheap, if you want to get through. Compare that to the cost of a rental, I would suggest.
So you're suggesting we spend settlement money on a used vehicle with, I mean, that,
I'm trying to find a bridge to get us to wherever we need to be so that you can get the vehicle that I think would be in the best interest of the township. But again, I'm just one person. I'm expressing my opinion here. I don't have an interest in authorizing expenditure on another combustion engine for the long term.
Well, right, but what you're talking about, this is the same sort of thing we were talking about at one of our last budget meetings. That has to be in a plan somewhere, like, we've never even talked about that at the
Okay,
board
well, I guess
level.
opening salvo then.
I mean,
I don't know,
but
where do
like-
we start? Like,
So, but I
here we are.
I think that's where we need to get this into the master planning stuff, like, we need to really do it then if we're gonna do it. We don't wanna piecemeal it. In this case, we need to buy this guy a vehicle so he can do his job, but like, long-term, let's really dig in and do that. I think that's a great idea.
I mean, we gotta buy the guy a vehicle. Why can't it be a vehicle like the one parked out there? I don't understand. Like,
Oh, that one is about $60,000. Well, no, it'd be much more than that now, and we only got $28,000 in a
well,
settlement.
I'm not, I mean, we're gonna have to probably, I mean, I've already been sort of masterminding, I mean, what a new vehicle might run us, you know what I mean? And 28's not gonna pay for a new truck of any.
No, it's going to be at least double that, at least.
Well, I guess I'm curious why it needs to be a new truck.
Oh, I mean.
Well, that's
I-
been a part of our capital planning.
The uncertainty of purchasing a used vehicle, particularly for staff out in the public that we're doing work for the township, I don't know.
I don't know, I think the combustion vehicles we have aren't as reliable as we'd like them to be, but.
Well,
So
I
I
think
guess
there's,
I'm not comfortable with the open-end ask. Like, yes, we have to approve what the
Well-
insurance is paying us, but the ask is to allow a purchase of a new vehicle.
no,
But then I
I'm
don't know if
like.
that's 40,000, 80,000,
You will-
120,000.
Yeah, no, I mean, I need to know where folks are at, so I can send, our maintenance director out, has already started doing some research, but I'd have to bring back, this is the vehicle we're looking at, this is the price, this is how we're paying for it, all, I mean, all that.
so
I
the
offer my
question,
services in this effort.
so the question I would ask, so this was a 2021 that was totaled, correct? Quick search, Ziegler has a 2021 18.5, same type of truck. So buying used with similar amount of miles would, in my mind, have the similar risk of the vehicle that was already there. And if we use that settlement for now to purchase a vehicle, there's no additional risk to breakdown than what was existing before the vehicle was smashed.
Oh, you're saying, like, if
I'm
we
saying
could
purchase-
guarantee who owned it before we did?
No, I mean, you have, you can't do that, but
I
I'm
mean,
just.
our
I mean, I know.
vehicles, I mean, this is, I mean, unheard of as far as I know, like, our vehicles are well-maintained and very only out of service when they're getting regular service, pretty much. I mean, we don't really.
I think that's a true statement.
Yeah. I mean, Greg takes maintenance.
Fire
department-
trucks is a different situation. Get it out of your mind. Neil, I saw you looking. It's not the same.
So, I mean, next year, we are gonna have to look at replacing, next year, the Toyota Camry is getting to a point where, you know,
Yeah.
they don't run forever.
Well, that Camry was supposed to be replaced 10 years ago, and we
Yes.
kicked it out.
I guess my point is, why would a 2023 with 12,000 miles on it be an absolute off the table? Like, that doesn't make sense.
I didn't say it was off the table.
Yeah, I don't think anybody said that. We don't even have a policy for
You
this.
wanted new.
I knew it was preferable, I think.
We
I
can
think
get-
it's the best decision overall, but
The vehicle I have in mind for this maintenance vehicle can be financed right now as a regular consumer with no interest for 72 months on the 23 brand-new model years. So like, we can do this, guys.
No,
It's not that big of a
the-
deal.
that's
It's just
not-
buying a car. I don't think we have to get
It's
so
not just
crazy
buying a
about
car, we have to install an electric.
Charging
Yeah.
station and
Guys,
then.
that's
Okay,
like hooking up an
so-
outlet. It is not as complicated as you think.
So
It really
to-
is.
Zach, we have to plan for literally everything here. It has to fit into people's, their schedule of their projects. Like, I think we should at least hear from the maintenance director before we go that route. I mean, like, that's the planning portion of it. We don't just, every time you think you're making a decision on the fly, no, you're not. We've got a policy, or we can create a policy, or we can plan it through.
I think that's your preference in this case.
That is just responsible governance. And you know that that is, Zach.
I don't think that what you're describing and what I'm describing are the same thing. I think we're talking about two different things. I'm talking about replacing a vehicle.
Okay.
There's one
If we want
knock-on
to shift
effect
the
to
way
this
that we buy
vehicle.
vehicles or the types of vehicles we buy, though, I think we should at least hear from our maintenance director. That is just a solid to a guy that's doing his job as a professional.
Most certainly welcome the input from the maintenance director, of course.
Yes.
Greg is online.
There's the maintenance of them too in
I'm not
reality.
gonna lie, I didn't even know he was online.
And if he's doing the oil changes and whatnot on the combustible, how comfortable is he with the electric and so, so I do think that that is
I don't know,
important.
I don't know if
And just for consideration, not to make this explosive, but as a person who did just install a commercial charger for a rental property, it took me less than a week, and it was $2,000. It's not difficult. It can be easily done, and this is an outside one because I don't allow access at the property to the garage. So it's not unfeasible, and it's not terribly expensive, but it is something that can be done. And I think that both of you, Dusty and Zach, both of you have very valid points. I think that this is a start of a conversation. This probably isn't the best time or place to have a detailed conversation, but I do agree that we should be moving towards this, but the process of moving towards is very different than an immediate need. And that's why I would support purchasing a used vehicle with, that would provide us the time to perhaps plan and implement a future goal or future state that we should be moving towards. But I think that there's elements to both of these things, both of these that need to be, that are valid. Personal bias, I have an electric vehicle, absolutely love it, and I think that with lower maintenance costs, that it is the way to go, and with environmental health and safety concerns. But we do not have the infrastructure in this community and at this location right now. But it does require planning to have that be most effective.
So I'll just chime in here. Yes, I have a EV, and yes, I have installed a charger in my garage. Very, very simple. Rebates from everybody and their brother kind of thing. Encouraging that. My understanding is that we do have an EV charger here at Flesher Field. I don't know how many people use it. I don't know whether it's of any value. It's not here, though, so just throwing that out there. So we have kind of started an infrastructure here. I would like to see us move towards that, but I also understand the more immediate need of having a replacement vehicle sooner rather than later. I would like to see something used, and I would like to see us develop a plan for moving towards EV charging station here and how everything is going to be dealt with and making it convenient for us to use and to charge. Some places, depending on where you buy your vehicle from, an EV, it's free to charge because they want to encourage you to have it.
Like Maple Hill.
Like Maple Hill, yes, which is what I do. I appreciate it. So I guess my view is, I would like us to actually have a plan and do it, not just talk about developing a plan. But I also understand and can appreciate needing something sooner, but not a full-fledged, brand-new, fancy vehicle, which is no guarantee that it's going to be great either. There's enough recalls on new vehicles, so I would prefer that it was a used vehicle, a reasonable price, and go from there.
Just FYI, the EV at Fletcherfield has not been utilized in over 2.5 months.
And the EV at Fletcherfield is painfully slow and inadequate for rapid charging.
It's a level 2 charger. That's what it is.
It's also at this point it's been around a while, so it's way outdated, I imagine, the technology that it runs off of.
Yeah, nobody's using it, and it's smack in the middle
I
of
don't
summer,
know.
nobody's used it in 2.5 months.
The equipment I have in my garage is 10 years old, charges at the same speed as the one at Fletcherfield, so.
Yeah, it's not how old it is, it's the type it is, it's slow.
It's a level 2
People can
charger,
go right down
so-
to Denoyer and hook in, and they're like,
Yeah, that's an AC charger like somebody would have at their home or at a destination where they're gonna spend a night or 5-6 hours. We put it at the park because people might spend a day at the park, get a little juice while they're doing something.
one person.
If you're one person, gotta start somewhere.
I tried
If you're
once.
traveling,
I
you
tried
need
once.
level 3 charging, which uses direct current and goes at a much higher rate, delivers much more amperage. than
So
what we do at
Claire,
Fletcherfield.
I guess I'm looking for.
Down to me, so I'm kind of on the same field. I don't wanna see us go out and buy a fully loaded whatever vehicle. Ventilated seats, heated seats, but with
No.
following this discussion, I think the thought of moving in the right direction, with solar panels and electric vehicles is there, but we're going to need something for a year or two to get us to that final phase, I think. And so I guess what I'm saying is I can comfortably sit here and say, hey, I'd be happy today saying, go ahead, get a used vehicle for up to the amount of the check that you're getting back. Like, I can go that far.
Kristen, do you want to add anything to this conversation? Your thoughts?
No, I have nothing, Sherry, thank you.
Okay. All right, well, sounds to me that the preference of the board is to move forward, obtain a used vehicle, work on a plan to move towards electric vehicles in the future?
I don't know, that's not really part of, I'm not making that motion, but would that be a part of a motion?
I don't think
Wait, I'm
we
sorry,
need
what
a
motion do
motion.
we need right now?
I don't think we need a
You
motion.
asked for direction. You didn't
Oh.
ask for
Yeah,
a
you
motion.
asked for the dollars.
Yeah, we gotta accept the insurance offer.
Yeah, accept the
Yes.
settlement offer and direct the supervisor to
Figure it
replace
out.
it with a used vehicle.
We've never accepted settlement offers before, have we? Did we do this?
I think it was just done before, but I think you have a supervisor who is a little more inclusive than maybe some of your supervisors in the past.
I make a motion to utilize the insurance settlement dollars toward the purchase of a vehicle for the building department.
Hold up, that's super open-ended.
Well, I mean, it's only $28,000. I don't know how
So up
detailed
to-
you guys want to get toward it.
Like up to 28,000?
Why would do
To the
I just gave a real number. That is up to 28,000. Like it's,
You said you used 28,000 towards the
Towards.
purchase. We're saying up to 28,000.
now I'm saying, let's approve this insurance money to be used toward the purchase of a vehicle. That's my motion, anyway. Is there a second?
I got you.
Is there a second?
I'm confused. Can you clarify the motion, please?
The motion is to use the insurance settlement dollars toward the purchase of a vehicle for the building department. I'm pretty sure that's dead if nobody gave it a second.
I'll support the motion to accept the insurance settlement.
So-
and use the funds towards the purchase of a vehicle.
Any further discussion? I have a motion by Clerk Farmer, support by.
I have a further question. Is there a line item in this budget now that authorizes you to expend $28,000?
That's what this motion would do.
That's what part of, that's the other reason this is being presented, because it's in excess of 10,000. Your policy, purchase policy, is being followed again by your.
All right, so we're doing two things. We're accepting the offer and bringing the
Correct.
money into our coffers and authorizing
Spending,
its
yes.
expense.
Wait, what are you talking about, 10,000?
I thought it's
Because
over
the policy.
10,000.
No, it's anything over, no, it's anything that the board
wasn't
has
like
to
a
approve
snap
it,
budget.
but it's over $2,000. 2,000 is the
If
one.
it doesn't have that blue line, right?
Or
Hang on.
It's $10,000 that has not been detailed in the budget.
Yeah.
We detail things through the blue line. This would be creating a detailed line item that you will never see in blue because that's just not how BSNA works.
Right.
But we'll know, we'll know.
I get it. We'll know what color it really is. All right, well, I already supported the motion, I think, so it stands.
So the question I have, again, this is semantics and me being a nerd. When I heard the motion, it did not say up to, it said use the 28,000 towards.
Actually, I
would
just
like-
said the insurance settlement money toward.
Towards does not imply as a cap. Towards would mean if I bought a $60,000 vehicle, I would use that 28,000 toward it. I cannot support this unless the language is
I
clarified.
need everybody in here to spend some time with the purchasing policy, and hold on, I need to calm down. We're only authorizing the amount of the insurance settlement. There is no hidden money in the budget where we're gonna pull out another $32,000 toward the purchase of a vehicle. There is no other vehicle budgeted, so this is not a trick. The motion is to use the insurance money toward the purchase of a vehicle. That's the only amount that is authorized toward the purchase of a vehicle. I am not trying to trick this board. In fact, I have only spent months and months trying to help this board. That is the motion and the second.
I just want to say, as someone that's around a little bit more, I understand your frustration, but it even confused me. It's the wording.
The wording was literally as simple as it could be. It is basic wording to get us to move past this. It doesn't specify electric vehicle, it doesn't specify a combustion engine. It is actually doing what most of this board had expressed they wanted, which was not to purchase a brand-new vehicle. And this motion would not even come close to allowing that.
But it doesn't specify the way it's worded. I get what you're saying, and I understand why it's frustrating. But to somebody that doesn't know the purchasing policy like you, it doesn't sound like there's a cap. Now, what you just said after that, like I'm not, if I'm making a motion to spend the settlement money towards the purchase, that's all I'm, like that's not visible to people. That,
I understand what you're saying, and again, I apologize, I've lost my temper. Just a few seconds ago, we can all watch it back later. But me knowing the purchasing policy better than anyone on this board is only this board's fault, because I have been presenting and talking about this policy for months, and I mean every single person on this board has been a part of those discussions. I have pushed it. I have expressed the importance of it. The attorney has expressed the importance of it. We have reiterated the importance of it and through everything that we do. It is available for everyone to read. I shouldn't be the only one who knows that policy better than anyone else on this board. And that's not my fault that I'm the only one who does. It's here. I can print you off some before you leave tonight. We should all know this policy. It's very important, and it's how we operate, and it's how we come to agreed understandings of how we operate. And again, it makes things predictable. It makes things predictable for the residents, it makes things predictable for the board, or it's supposed to, and it makes things predictable for our staff, because that's the sort of organization we want to run. Something that's predictable, where we can get our job done, we know what our job is, and we're not making decisions necessarily by the seat of our pants, because that's not what we should be doing. So that motion to accept the insurance settlement, which we don't usually do, but that's fine if we do that, we have to do something with the money. So we're either gonna dump it into savings or we're gonna put it back into the rotation toward the purchase of a vehicle. I tried to simplify it, but now it's 10 minutes later.
So
And I shouldn't have lost my temper, and that's the last time I'm gonna apologize for that, because that was like 4 times.
my concern isn't the knowledge of the people on this dais. It is the appearance to the public that we are accountable to. And that's why that language bothered me. I trust every single person on this dais. I trust our staff completely. It's the language gave the appearance, and that's what I was concerned about. It's the appearance towards the public, not the individuals on this dais. And that's
You're
who
right.
I answer to. And so I can't expect them to completely understand the purchasing power, the purchasing policy. So that's why I was concerned about this. It's the appearance to the public.
No, I understand, I should have been able to explain that.
Well, I am thankful that Dusty took the time to explain that. Initially, I had some concern that has been expressed here, but in looking through the budget that's sitting here in front of me, I was able to remember some of the discussions that we've had and realize that it wasn't going to go over that. We're simply specifying the use of the money, and it's not going to be someone's going to go spend $100,000 and get a fancy car or something like that. I appreciate that, and it finally did click into my mind, so I didn't need to reiterate that again. But I do appreciate you taking the time to walk us through this, because this is kind of one of the few times that we're able to do that and think about it and like, okay, this is why it's worded this way. And after the first dozen or 2 times, I'm sure it will be less than that, but I do appreciate you doing that, and I support the motion.
So
and
I
ready
want
to
to
go.
just clarify, we have a motion by Clerk Farmer and I believe support by Trustee Ford.
Yes.
We've had discussion on the motion. Is there any further discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, 6 with 1 absent. I will be back in touch when necessary on this item.
Well, and the only, I do want this board to know that Sherry and I have had some very brief conversations about what it might look like after the election and the new board takes their seat. And some of that would be that we, you know, a retreat of the board is certainly a normal thing to do. And we have done it in the past. The COVID retreat was really weird, because that was just all online. But where we are able to really take some time and sit down and go through some of the key policies line by line, which unfortunately, it would have been great if we had been able to do that as we were doing the great board shuffle over the last year. It just didn't work out that way. But that is something that I'm requesting, that we really take a look at it, start looking at things we don't like, that don't reflect our values, changing those policies so that they do, you know, that sort of thing. And I look forward to doing that at some point as well. All right, I'm done, Sherry.
Thanks, Dusty, for all the time. I know Dusty actually, I asked, begged that we actually spend time going through how to read the GL all before budget season, so that hopefully would begin to prep you for these things. This is just an unfortunate situation that had to be dealt with sooner rather than later, so that we can make sure we have our staff out appropriately serving, our building officials serving the staff. So it is 7:45. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 areas of the budget to go through. I was planning to go through this evening. Do we want to take a 10-minute break and then?
Yeah, I would like to. I would like to stretch my legs.
All right, then let's adjourn for 10 minutes. We will reconvene at 7:55.
If I stretch my legs, I meant literally just straightening them. That's about as far as I can go.
7:55.
No LOD, no injury while at work.
Yeah, that's right. Am I covered by workers'
As a
comp?
government agency, we would then have to pad the TV.
Yeah, or me.
We're back live, folks. All right, it's 7:55 PM, and I'd like to call this meeting back to order, and we will continue on our conversations around the draft Blue Line budget in front of you this evening. I had hoped to cover 4 departments this evening, but we'll see how far people are willing to stay with us. As a last matter before we dive in, our next meeting, which is September 24th, we will complete the final departments that evening, and they will include the Public Works sewer budget, to which we were presented. So I'm hoping that the agenda will enable us to spend predominantly most of our time discussing the budget. On the 24th, you'll get one more draft in your email, and then a final conversation October 8th, where it will then be placed at the counter for public inspection. So if you would please turn your attention to page 48, the police contract. So we are flipping down through the police contract. So we are moving into having a meeting with the sheriff's department. I believe that's next week. The police committee will meet again after that. It's my anticipation, somewhat based on the report from Sergeant Johnson. I was wistfully hoping that maybe they'd have enough staff that we could consider adding a community police officer, but it doesn't sound like they're there. Doesn't mean I won't ask the question. Not really anticipating any major changes. We did include some increases, anticipating a percentage increase in the contract that they offer us. This is our final year to renew the police contract, and beginning in 2025, early the first quarter, it's our intention to start in a fresh way about what we want to have in a new contract with the sheriff's department. So there really shouldn't be any surprises in here. As a part of a reminder, part of our ordinance enforcement is paid for in our police contract budget. So you see we have general supplies, so the uniforms, the PPE, those supplies are for our ordinance enforcement officers, not for the sheriff's department. IT services, again, those dollars go towards the building department, the police department. We have our standard accounting and auditing fees. Dusty, I've kind of noticed across lines, you're not really anticipating an increase necessarily.
You're talking about for the accounting and audit fees?
Yeah.
Well, so that would be a discussion between you and Siegfried Crandall to be
Okay.
able to anticipate that.
Okay.
But also, we have had some suggestions from staff to sort of change how we are billed those dollars, because it's not really clear. And I know there is a question into him right now that hopefully he can respond to when he's in the office on the 18th, about how those are billed and where we should bill those from.
Okay. I thought we changed the contracted services to include for the removal of hazardous.
Yeah, I'll go in right now and make sure. That says 5,000, we thought 10,000 would make more sense.
Well, I thought junk removal line was for any contracting that needed to be done to pick up stuff like alongside the road that our maintenance department can't do on its own?
It could be, yes, so it really could be a hoarding situation, it could be alongside the road. Every once in a while, we get a mattress or a toilet out there. Or it could even be, no, it can't be that. Do that anymore. Yeah, those would be the two places, and I know we had a significant expenditure in that line this year. This is also something, this is the line that would be used to clean up homeless encampments after folks have moved to a different location. This would be the line we'd pay from.
Well, and there's just for the board's awareness on that, we have a reasonable expectation that small encampments or single tents that can be done by maintenance would be done internally. But if there's,
Yeah, hazardous for sure.
needles, human waste, like, at some point, we need some professionals too. So I thought we put 10,000
Well, we just had
in
this
there.
conversation, and I think you and I both thought there was 10,000 in there.
So can I ask a very, very, very rudimentary, this is like first grade question. Why is all this mixed in with police contract administration?
Well, because
Why
It's
is?
a good question.
This isn't police, and it just seems like junk removal and
It's enforcement of our ordinances, though.
Ordinances.
And police, our contract with the police don't include the officers enforcing our ordinances. So instead, we have our own ordinance enforcement officer. He's paid through this line and the building fund. Those are the two funds that pay his salary, and that's what we pay for those activities from our police and building.
is that the best, most transparent way to do it? It's confusing to me, because like when you looked at, one thing I was going to comment on.
well, it
is
doesn't say Kalamazoo County Sheriff's Department budget, it's
Well, no, it says
police
Police
budget.
contract administration, and that just doesn't make sense to me, because some of these are.
Oh, this title up here.
Yeah, that was also my confusion, because for some reason, I thought I recalled that we had a separate fund for ordinance enforcement that was separate
No,
from
they are
police
ordinance enforcement
contract admin.
ordinance enforcement is in the police budget and in the building budget.
But why?
Because that is what they spend their job on, is enforcing our ordinances, which is a police-like task, and in our buildings, so doing apartment inspections, motel inspections, that's all function of,
Enforcement of our ordinances.
But, I mean, wouldn't it be more transparent just to have a ordinance enforcement as a budget? 'Cause, I mean, what really got me, I heard we were getting new officers, and I looked at uniforms and supplies, and I'm like, well, that's really low for that, and so that was just, it just seems peculiar to me, and I'm not saying we have to change it, just, when I put this out to the public, when it goes out there, it looks odd, and it sounds odd. And
I don't
just
want to,
didn't-
we should not conflate, though, confusion, a complex way of budgeting, and not being transparent. Those are not, they are not the same thing. This is a complex way of utilizing funds available. So we could do a lot of things just out of our general fund, but our general fund is very limited by the millage that we bring in. So we have other sources of funding that we've talked about, right? So for sewer and water, we've got connection fees and surcharges and things like that, right? The road fund, we've got a specific road fund, that's new. Police, we've got a specific SAD for that. Fire, specific SAD. General, specific. What else am I missing here, guys? We've got our little cheat sheet
Fire.
here. We've got, well, in fire, to be creative and to utilize the funds the best, we have 3 different funds for fire that all come from the same revenue source, right? So it's, some of it is about creativity, some of it is about complexity. We've got SODA and DDA that are actually capturing our tax dollars to then fund themselves, among some other things, right? So it might be complex, but that's not the same thing as it being not transparent. It's just difficult, which is also why you don't see an audience full of people here, because when they sit and listen, it gets confusing, they don't have the same training behind them, you know what I mean?
It does, and that
And
was
it
the
doesn't mean
concern.
we're not being transparent because they don't understand. That's also why we have very long budget meetings to talk it through. And if they have questions, they can go back and look at it. But we need to maintain that level of sophistication with our budgeting because of the limited sources. I mean, I've even suggested that maybe we should be paying our attorney a little bit differently and paying him out of multiple funds so that we're capturing all those different ways to pay for one thing, right? So that all the burden doesn't come out of one fund. So for ordinance enforcement, he is enforcing, or this person is enforcing
And we're
our
talking about
laws.
actual moving of money from one account to another in order to account for paying. I mean, these are people that are paid out of different funds, and they perform functions that live underneath the revenue that comes in that's related to the work that those people do. Kristen has her hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Sherry. I just, I'm not disagreeing that this, for accounting purposes, is under the police umbrella. I think that makes sense to me. It's all under enforcement, but I wanted to just go back to the homeless encampment cleanup. I thought we had grant money for that, or is there not grant money available for that? Because I do think that that is something that we need to be in front of. And when we see these encampments in the township, we need to address them quickly before they get out of control. So I thought we had grant money for that.
No. I will say we've not, if we talked about, that might have been a tool or a resource we discussed at some previous meeting to bring in extra revenue. But we've not pursued any grant money to help with that work.
Okay, well, I do think that that is something that's important for us to stay on top of. We just don't want to have it turned into.
This is actually a modest item related to that work to put it in the budget, because if our neighbors, the city, I don't remember the number, but they have hundreds of thousands of dollars in their budget for cleanup.
Yeah, and that's
So-
what I'm saying I'm trying to have us avoid. We really don't want that to happen in the township. So I think when we see those areas forming, we need to address them.
So I will say that they are not completely absent. I will say we had one significant event last summer, right? Summer of 2023? Yeah, we had that really got us starting about this.
Or this summer. It just happened, didn't it?
No, it didn't.
The years are blending.
I know. So we've had, regardless, we've had one major event that really, that we learned a lot from. That's when we brought, after that, our own maintenance department did the cleanup. It would have been better handled by professionals. So we learned some things. It would have been it would have been safer if it had been handled by an outside entity. But we learned some things. We brought the city in, We learned from their community or their part of their patrol that is out talking to people who are unhoused, kind of what their protocol is. We bought some extra protection for our ordinance enforcement, our parks, and our maintenance department, so that when they encounter things. So we did learn some things as a part of that. I mean, I'm happy, I am happy, and I'm knocking on wood, that the level of encountering encampments is rather low and small. But I also think it's prudent that I don't want it to be an emergency situation and we don't have something budgeted. So that's sort of why we came up with that dollar figure, was to give it some acknowledgement in the budget, but we don't need to go to the level at this point that our colleagues in other communities have to as far as funding.
Well, and we've
Yeah,
already had.
I hear you. I just, I want to make sure we keep it that way, that we
Right,
don't allow
so-
it to get out of control. Like the sergeant spoke earlier about how important the barriers that we put up in the huge parking lot, you know, out on the Maple Hill Mall. That was instrumental in shutting that stuff down. So I just want to make sure that we're keeping it where we don't need to have a huge budget to address it, because we're going to address it as soon as we see it occurring.
We
You know what I
have
mean?
basically one area in the township that is a reoccurring sort of site that is, so maintenance and ordinance enforcement are out there pretty regularly, and the parks director too, walking those trails, you know, use is the best deterrent, so, you
But
know.
we're also talking about two different ways that this is happening that we've experienced. There is the issue when it happens on township property, but it is also happening on private property. And sometimes these are large properties where folks who own the property don't realize it's happening for many months. And at that point, it's really developed into a true encampment. So like this year, we spent money to clean up private property that we have an expectation that we'll get back eventually, right? I mean, that's the way the system is supposed to work. We paid to have, and now, so I'm conflating two things right now, but we had the property, there was a hoarding situation, we paid to have that property cleaned up.
Correct.
Are we going to get any of that money back?
We hope so. We'll place it on the tax bill.
But, so that's my point. So like, we have this expectation we'll get the money back, but it's not really a guarantee. But then we also had we had a large encampment by the railroad that was out behind Quail Meadows, right? And we assisted those property owners as they went through the process of getting those, getting the people off of their property and going through the court system. So like, there are a lot of points in time where we could definitely use these dollars to expedite a situation with only a partial expectation that we would even get them back. But again, both private and public property we're talking about that we have to enforce on.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree, Dusty. I think it's money well spent to nip it in the bud as soon as we are aware of it. Absolutely.
And since I know we have members of the board here who are really involved in the Parks Committee and Friends of the Parks, I had a conversation with the Parks Director today, and we intend to bring an updated ordinance and policy regarding parks, regarding parks in general, but also a policy around how we're going to work with people when we find someone that we think is staying in the park overnight.
The other issue about this that was brought up was the name of this fund, and now I don't remember
I had a question about that.
Yeah, well, it
So-
says contract administration.
Yeah, so I can give you the probable history there, is that, this fund was set up the first time we ever had a special assessment district. And that was also before we had a full-time ordinance enforcement officer, I believe. And so that's why it was called Police Contract Administration. But then, years later, we incorporated, the ability to legally use the funds for ordinance enforcement. We can rename this fund, but I would like to do that legally so that we all know what that is. And by legally, I mean, can we call it a public safety? Or public safety and enforcement? Or does it really have to be tied to what it says on the special assessment notice that's put out?
I'd have to go back and look at your special assessment notices, but I think in those notices, we reference two things. We reference our contract with the sheriff's department, and we reference ordinance enforcement. So you could call this ordinance enforcement / police administration,
Okay.
police contract. It would be, as Michael indicated, be maybe a little clearer to the public where the money is
Yeah.
being spent.
So that is an easy thing that I'm doing right now. And so the next time you see this, it will not be called police contract admin.
I'm confused.
Yeah, really.
All right, moving on, page 62, building department. All right. So the building department, in the salary, payroll, pension, it includes 2 full-time employees. That's it out of that one, right?
The end.
The end, yeah, 2 full-time employees and the end. We put a clothing allowance, so the building department generates its own revenue. So, so the clothing allowance for the building official is in there. We put a little bigger number in there than for some because he's brand new. So he's gonna need more to get started. Supply line, same thing that, we reduced that, thinking that we're probably in good shape. Postage, here, vehicle maintenance, so fuel, oil changes, all that good stuff. From the IT services line, this is our IT director, John. He formulates these numbers, he figures out the percentages. So the LexisNexis is paid for by ordinance enforcement, the building department, ordinance police and the building department. Same for the AT&T Mobile, Adobe Acrobat Pro, a license for that, Cognito Forms, that's split with the general fund. Cognito Forms is a tool that our meeting communications manager uses. Analytics is our network cloud platform. BSNAbuilding.net, that's the cost for the fee for the BSNA software building.net, where all of their materials are stored and generated from. Also out of the building department, we have other professionals that provide inspections. So here you see a plumbing inspector, plan review. We anticipate spending less money in plan reviews in 2025 because our new full-time building official has the ability to review those plans, so we will be sending less of those out to consultants. Again, our accounting and auditing fees. Oh, did we forget telephone? Did we forget telephone? Oh, no, building official uses, the other, no, it needs to be in there. The telephone needs to be in there, right?
I think that you have now reached the point where we stopped reviewing this budget.
Oh, okay, so we need to put the telephone and the mileage in there. Education and dues. One other change there is there's actually 2 conferences a year that building officials attend, so we need to get the second conference for education and dues. I did speak with the building official today, and there's a couple of the memberships in there that he felt weren't necessary to participate in. So I don't remember what they are off the top of my head, but we'll go back in and there'll be a couple of reductions in there for memberships. We are going to maintain our membership with the Home Builders Association of Southwest Michigan. For contracted services, this is funds that are set aside when there's a dangerous building. 50% come out of the building fund and 50% police. Thank you.
Because it's enforcement. That's how you tie those together.
Thanks. We don't have any expectations, looks like, for capital outlay in the building fund for next year, although I better check that, because that's a big dip, 7,000 to empty, so that makes me feel like,
Yeah, and we can even, when we look at this again, we can see what had been used specifically for capital outlay in the past. But I think this is where we had budgeted additional computers. We had budgeted that lift desk before in the past. And microphones. I thought you were giving me a clue.
No, I think we thought about another speed trailer, and we had talked about doing that out of this and the police.
This is where we.
I think that's why it was such a
what it
big
was.
number last year, or this year.
did we get that speed trailer?
We have not gotten a new one.
No, we really didn't spend any capital outlay or really anything out of the building fund this year.
Should, I think the official might have some time to look into that. I mean, I don't know how long it would take to get one, but,
You mean the building official? Typically, this would be an ordinance enforcement, sort of like lead project to get the.
and I believe that our building official right now has the time to invest to do some research on this. I mean, they can partner with ordinance enforcement, but,
I guess if they have time, in the past, we just didn't have anyone else who had time.
yeah.
Because it was so busy.
All right, so let's make a note about look into speed trailer, because we need another one. Anything else for the good of the order? Any questions? I think we have a couple holes here we need to fill in, and some of these go away, some of these memberships, but I don't remember.
John has a hand.
What?
I actually have
Oh, yeah, go ahead, John.
so, the telephone, his telephone is currently being paid out of our cell phone line item. It was a cell phone we had already had, we didn't get him a new one. So if it does need to move out of our cell phone into the building department.
It does.
Adjustments we'll need to make both in the IT budget and move it into
Okay, that's good to know.
that budget.
You're talking for cell phone, right?
Yep.
So,
But you do expect that we would pay for the WebEx phone out of this still, right?
No, not the WebEx.
No, so the telephone line, I should deactivate? The telephone line. We can talk about it later, too.
His cell phone.
Well, right, but you said telephone, too, and we were talking about telephone a minute ago, so that's,
So the township pays for the building department's telephones.
okay. So I will deactivate that line.
Actually
Yeah.
pushed off to them because it's such an insignificant number in the whole scheme of our phone bill.
Yeah.
So we haven't actually split that out for them. So if you were talking about telephone and not cell phone, then those are two things, and I'm sorry I interrupted. If you're talking about cell phone, the township is paying for his cell phone right now. It is not coming out of.
Yeah, we'll dig into that.
Okay.
We'll dig into that.
We also, the township also bought the building department a laptop this year for
Oh.
the new guy. So if there's capital outlay left by the end of the year, we may need to move some of that money over.
We can definitely do that.
That's it, that's all I got.
All right, because we sold their laptops.
Okay. All right, that's good to know. Yeah, we can definitely do that internal shuffle. So, any questions on the building department, building department?
Not on the building department, I apologize. Something slipped past me during our conversation on the police that I'd like to cover real quick.
Sure.
The fund balance continues to grow, and after this 2025, it looks like we're still going to have massive amounts of cash reserves. Sorry, 2024, we're looking at 2.5 million. And then we're going to bring in yet another 1.5 million and expend about that amount. So I guess my point being 166% fund balance in the police fund is not okay.
Wait, what was the 2.5 million? I didn't,
That's the ending fund balance according to the 2024 budget.
no, don't look at that.
Don't
Don't do
those-
that. There's
Not
about
yet.
a $1.5 million fund balance in that line right now, at the end of last year. That's about what it is. We're pulling from that fund balance to.
From our audited statement. The number she's giving you is from our audited statement.
Oh, yes, when I say fund balance, I agree, we should all know that I'm talking about end-of-year fund balance from an audit. So 1.5 million, we're pulling from that to balance this budget. Also, we can use these dollars, this was actually Sherry's line, for building a new facility, if it's going to be there to accommodate police offices and vehicles, right? So if you put a building into the mix, that's not that big of a fund balance.
Do we have a capital improvement plan that plays that out? Then I think we need.
I mean,
Then I think we
we are
either
not
need to
working
make a
under one.
plan
I
to
think
do it, or we
that-
need to adjust the special assessment because
Hold on, stop.
we don't give enough return on that dollars to the taxpayers to hold on to it.
What you're not seeing in there is that they've combined, for some reason, all of the revenue for that line. That is not all tax dollars. So for example, 1.2, because we reduced the police millage last year to lower it, because we had the excess. We've done it, we've kept it that way. And the revenue predicted from that drop is 1.25 million, not the 1.5. There's other revenues in there, like liquor license fees. There's 200,000 in carryover from the prior year. There's ordinance violation fees from district court. There's police alarm fines. So it's not just taxes that are making up that 1.5. It's a whole slew of different things. And it's not broken out in this, and I'm not sure why, but.
I'm not sure
It's
if I
kind of-
understand what you're telling me.
Page 47. So the 1.5 is not tax millage that you're saying is coming in as revenue. It's all different revenues.
Well, but 1.2 is.
I'm talking about the fund balance.
Yeah, the fund
And I'm
balance
saying
is
that if we're gonna have year after year, at least on the sheet that I'm working on tonight, a $2.5 million fund balance, that's too much. That's all, that's what I'm trying to say.
That is not
So if
what
you're
the
telling
fu-
me that the numbers are inaccurate on this sheet, then the request is to give me one with accurate numbers.
Yeah.
Well, you will get that on the 8th.
Okay, but to be
This is our
clear,
draft, so we're
BSNA is
working
never gonna
through it.
generate a fund balance on this sheet for us. Those lines should have been removed when this was generated.
All right.
We can make sure of that, but we don't incorporate our audited fund balance at the end of one year into BSNA the next year. We can do a running fund, anyway, regardless, that number is incorrect.
All right, so second request then. I'd like to have a very solid understanding, maybe a memo that explains what the fund balance at the end of 2024 is going to be for this police and what we expect it to be at the end of 2025, so that we can have a conversation about the rate. That's what I want to be able to do.
That is gonna be a Josh question. He's gonna have to. Okay.
Is that understood what I'm asking for? Okay. Thanks. That was just the only thing that got passed on the police.
All right, it's 8:30. Are people ready to plow on to the parks?
It has to be what it was at the end of the 2023 audit from Seabright. And that doesn't continue to be us.
Okay, you will find the Parks Department on page 26.
That's number, shouldn't be on here, it confuses us.
Yeah.
Shaking them toward you.
26.
I don't know, Mom.
Okay, staff and salary lines for the Park Department are one full-time person and part of a maintenance person, right? I feel like there's more. It's at least 1.5, it's more than 1.5 people for sure. Who else is in her department? No, probably quite a bit of maintenance. I don't have.
They all get split up between general, parks, and fire
That's
for
right.
maintenance, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So there's maintenance people and a full-time dedicated parks director in the salaries line, payroll, pension, et cetera, et cetera. So for programming for 2025, she has out here program marketing and supplies, so, music in the parks, park materials. This was a new one this year that happened to us this year, is that we have been notified repeatedly that we have to obtain certain licenses to play music in the parks, and so Jim and Vanessa ironed that out. There's funding in there for the event at Drake Farmstead Park. There's general communications marketing plan for parks, events, and rental. A development of an internship program, which I'm so pleased she's got that. She's in the planning phase, and she's made really great progress. And then my tree lighting ceremony for Fletcher Field, that I'm just like, I let it go last year because we got that grant for the Fruit Belt Trail.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, but you got to give me that, because I really want that tree lighting ceremony.
I'm ready for it.
I know.
You know it's winter, I'll be there in person.
And we have
Short
support, we have support from the DDA. I mean, I think it will be cool when it happens. Anyway, the parks also pays for,
Turn your mics off. Turn your mics off if you're going to chant.
side conversations at the dais aren't always the best. We have vehicle maintenance, we have ground maintenance equipment, tools and supplies, facilities supplies, expendable supplies.
So many supplies.
So many supplies. And consultant, so we do have in here an empty spot. I spoke to her today that we're gonna have to, so we have this big grant for the Fruit Belt Trail, and so we're waiting for more information about what that number will be for the consultant to do the trail development. Accounting and auditing fees, telephone, fuel, oil, and grease, mileage, water and sewer. Anna, it's for you. Electric for the parks facility, heat for the parks facility. Then the rest here was completed. The maintenance services was, well, it was a partnership between maintenance and parks. But we have tree maintenance, planting and removal, herbicide applications, reoccurring service and system repairs, playground equipment, replacement repairs. Playground EWF is the stuff I forget, I knew I should have told her to spell it out for me. It's the stuff, the squishy stuff underneath the playground. Do you know what it stands for? Fiber? Yeah, yeah. We have some bathroom replacements, some asphalt, some regular maintenance, painting the interior of OCC. We do need, last year, the trail naming system was in the parks for last year, and we weren't able to get to it, but I know it's something that the fire department and the parks department really want to accomplish. Maintaining our rain gardens, prairie maintenance, cameras at the Grange and the carriage barn. The elevator needs servicing at Grange Hall. We plan to stripe the basketball court at Grange so that it can also be utilized for pickleball. That was actually a suggestion by a resident, what we thought was pretty clever. Some signage for Flesher Field, some maintenance on the big gazebo at Flesher Field, message board for OCC, and some trash barrel upgrades for the disc golf course. We have a little funding in here for education and dues. We do some contracted lawn maintenance, and then capital outlay and improvements. So the foundation, I went with the maintenance director in the summer and visited the foundation at Grange Hall. It's going to need to be repaired. It's a very, very old building, and it's going to take, I think, someone with a specific skill set to do that. I believe that was in the budget for 2024, but he's not going to get to it, so he'll look at it next year. I'm hoping that 25,000 will be enough to do a foundation repair. Sounds like it won't be, but I'm hoping. Some tree planting, a generator for Drake Farmstead, Drake Landscape parking lot, some picnic tables. I just remembered something we didn't put in here that Neil requested. A property line fence at Drake Farmstead. So this is after some discussion. So at Drake Farmstead, in the corner, the trails get quite thick and hard to see, and it is a place that, number one, a lot of garbage from the neighboring property blows up the hill, and it's a very steep incline right there and dangerous for our staff to be going down there to clean it. And number two, it's also a place where people who are accessing the park from the rear and intend to stay there utilize. So there's been some conversation about whether it would be appropriate to put a fence between, on the property lines at Drake Farmstead.
Like a highway guardrail? Should we keep that party going from Township Park?
That won't stop trash.
No, it sure won't.
My kids always ask me where the road went.
So, for capital outlay, we have 60% of a zero-turn mower, 60% of an equipment trailer to haul it around. Actually, the maintenance director told me our equipment trailer is not in good shape, but that it's going to need to be replaced. Then for the Drake House, we have, the Oshtemo Historical Society. We match them on expenditures for interior renovations, just some general Drake House repairs, a message board for Drake House exterior, and rebuild the cupola that's outside. There is one thing that trustee Sikora asked me specifically that we didn't talk about last year. We did not budget for funds to go into the account at the Kalamazoo Community Foundation. So last year, we did not designate 25,000. I think that's too high. I think it's 25. We
I
made
just thought maybe it was a
an
bidding
annual transfer into that fund at, in the foundation for future parks. Actually, that fund is starting to really grow. So there was a request by trustee Sikora that we put that back in the parks budget.
That's where I thought that's why I was like, are we gonna do that then? All right, I got you.
That was my request, that we at least keep it in the budget. If we can keep making the 25,000 or whatever donation or,
Yep.
funding, that would be great. At a minimum, though, I think we should have it there as a reminder every year that it is important, and it's there, and it just doesn't disappear from people's
Yeah,
lives.
I'll have to look and see where that was. I'll have to go back to the 2023 budget, probably. Well, I know we did it, because I looked it up, to look up the number. So anyway, that'll be a change that we'll see in there as well.
Thank you.
Okay, so some other things about the Parks Department is that we were awarded that amazing grant from the state of Michigan to do that trail. You are not seeing the in the budget yet. That will be coming in the next budget. Where's my notes? for
24th?
Vanessa? Huh?
You mean the 24th?
It should be in there by the 24th, I think, yeah, and that will reflect, so if I understood how it works, is we have to fund a general fund line. There is monies being spent for the trail, and then when we reach certain benchmarks, she said, like, when we spend $100,000, then we submit our expenditures to the state of Michigan, and then our general fund will get repaid. So that has yet to be set up for Fruit Belt Trail.
Actually, I think I've got an appointment with her tomorrow. We're gonna set it up.
Oh, okay, I have the GL number if you want it.
Yes, I do. Thank you.
So there will be that additional changes. You'll see that GL line come in here. We'll need to fund it so that we can start that process of spending. And we do have a commitment to Fruit Belt Trail, though, of, I believe, $200,000 in general fund dollars for that project as well. So you know what, is that in the revenue?
I have to make sure it is.
Yeah, so I don't know if we want to do 100,000 in 2025 and 100,000 in 2026. Anyway, we've got to figure that out. That's the, okay. So, yeah, we need to make sure we've got that in there. The other thing that I guess around parks is that the dream is starting to come true where our rental revenue is really starting to generate some revenue. And we could do more. Part of like some things that have held us back is not having enough staff. And so Vanessa's, I mean, I think I'm really encouraged by our new parks ranger that we've hired. And, I mean, Vanessa sees a lot of potential about marketing our rental facilities, so I'm just, there were years when those numbers were hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
So it is starting to happen.
Like literally hundreds.
Literally hundreds of dollars, so it is starting
It was like
to
50
happen.
rentals.
Yeah, I didn't add it all up, but, I mean, it's 20, 30, 40, it's, you know, getting close to 50,000. Oh, no, it's
wild.
more than that, actually. So, that's a big, I mean, that's a significant growth in the last 10 years, for sure. So, it's happening. So that's the park. So I guess what,
Could I just add on to that?
sure.
So, and just so that everyone keeps in mind that as more people use the parks, there's more wear and tear, there's going to be more maintenance. And, I mean, it's a good thing that a lot of people are using it in the rental facilities and stuff, but that's why we need to also keep in mind that we have to keep them up so that people keep using them and want to keep using them, but there will be an increase. Thanks.
Okay, so with that, that got us through the 4 items I'd hoped to get through this evening. On the 24th, we will revisit the fire budgets. We will revisit we will see and discuss the sewer and water budget. We will also see the budgets for the DDA and SODA, because those boards will have met by then, and they will have approved what is in here, but they will have approved what's recommended, and then we can bring it back and put it in our budget. And by then, we should be able to have a good conversation about compensation, insurance, all those other things. So with that, I guess we're at public comment. I see no public online or in front of us for public comment. So I will close public comment and move to board member comments and committee updates. And I guess I'll start with Trustee Chapman this evening.
So this is September, which is Suicide Awareness Month, and as many of you know, suicide has had a very significant impact on my life. It affects many people in our community, and despite resources being available, it is often stigmatized, both those who are survivors and those who may have attempted. So I just want to bring that awareness to the public. There is help available, including the well-funded line 988, which is available free of charge from any phone. Suicide affects a significant number of people, and as we saw in our police report, a significant number of calls go to that. So it is an issue in our community, as it is in all communities, and I just want to give that time to let people know that we care and that resources are available.
Thank you, Trustee Chapman. I'll go down here to Trustee Ford.
No updates tonight.
Trustee Sikora?
Yeah, I'd like to ask that we get an agenda item, preferably earlier in the agenda, that includes any project updates. For example, the internet outage at KPL last week is still affecting their ability to process books that have been wanted to be taken out. There was a real bad situation with people who wanted to use the terminals in there. They were, of course, all down during that time, and that's a big public service that they do. And we're trying to work with them on several parks issues, and I think if we're running into problems, I guess they had a water main break or something. They were closed for one day also last week, and I don't know whether those are related to our project, but if we could have some kind of regular update on what's going on projects, I think the public should know, and at least everyone up here should have a better idea of what's going on in case we're stopped at Myers and asked about those things. Kind of following along with that, I think we should consider the concept of hiring a project manager, either as an employee or as a contractor, with no disrespect towards Maintenance Director Fountain, but it seems like he's understaffed and he's constantly has projects coming up that he just can't seem to get to. He just doesn't have the time. And I'm wondering if we could find somebody, maybe a part-time position, whatever, but who would just take on projects. They would come along, Greg could give them, what the project is or what it's about, and then they could do the research, they could come up with proposals, then they would be responsible for keeping everyone informed. We just have so many of these things that, well, we're not going to get to this again this year. Well, we're not going to get to that again this year. They don't have time to research, how much, whatever's going to cost. Maybe if we have someone whose job is to do projects like that, we might be able to at least address them, at least know what the numbers are, if we're going to say, well, no, we can't afford it or whatever, but have someone who actually knows enough about it and can present the information to us. So I'd like to ask us to think about something like that, having a designated person who just does projects. A lot of places I had them when I worked. A lot of people were doing projects because we had a lot of projects, but it was easy to have those assigned, and then they were responsible for the follow-through on them. Friends of the Parks met just before this meeting started a long time ago. We met out at the Drake Farmstead to review our family fun at the Drake Farmstead event that's coming up on Saturday, September the 21st. I'm not going to rehash everything because the hour is getting late, but please, if you're available, it's mostly directed towards children, young folks, but everybody's welcome, and it'll include an open house at the Drake House, so you can go through and see that in addition to the other things. But on our Facebook page and in other areas, we've been posting information about it. And we're also organizing and sponsoring a volunteer recognition luncheon at the Drake Farmstead on October 2nd. Just a quick flip back, though, to the previous one. Our event on that September 21st is actually starting in the afternoon because there's a rental in the carriage barn, which is a great thing to have, that it was being rented, so we adjusted our time. So there are a lot of people using it, and that's a good thing to have. And last week I attended our Kalamazoo Regional Water and Wastewater Commission meeting. I'm Oshtemo's alternate member at that, and that continues to be a fascinating, interesting experience, learning about that. And just kind of a general statement to anyone and everyone that if you trap animals like a groundhog or a woodchuck at your home, it is against the law to take them to the park and relocate them there. Please do not do that. And besides, not only do we not need them, but it is against the law. So just want to make sure to pass that along to everybody. So if anybody asks you, like, what do I do with this? It's not bring it to one of our parks or anything. So just want to let that go. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Interesting. It makes sense. I just never would have thought of that. Treasurer Bushka?
I'll take it to the supervisor's house. I have nothing, thank you. Just kidding.
It's plenty of room. Clerk Farmer?
I